Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. We've been friends for 5 years or more now, and we've bounced a lot of our the earth is a giant living. I'm hearing myself.
Oh, is
Oh,
Longo
that's okay.
like?
I got it.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so we're live. Okay.
Oh, we are.
Oh, sweet.
I didn't realize until I was hearing my own voice.
Jimmy, intro us.
Oh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is.
I'm here for now. What's up, y'all? How we're doing out there? Sorry we ran over a little late. I'm so sorry, guys. I hope it'll never happen again. Just kidding. So deal with it. I was late. We had an event here at the bookstore, which I also streamed to you guys. So go check that out. And we've got some great people here tonight. We've got Ben, favorite of the channel. We've got Spencer from Florida, Florida celeb. We've got Jimmy Wong, Mr. Wongo, Mr. Wright himself. And we're going to be talking some Florida news. We're going to be talking some ancient history, ancient Israelites in the Americas, probably reading through some articles if I had to guess. And yeah, so what do you guys, what's up, guys?
A little bit of the same, here we are again. Good to be here as always. And I'm sure there won't be enough time to cover a fraction of the things, that we could talk about. But yeah, we mentioned talking about Texas. So I prepared Texas things, but I mean, obviously I'm flexible.
Flexible and textable. I love it.
We can talk about anything, really.
All right. Hey, Ben, it's been a while. When's the last time you came on here?
Me and Longo talked for 2 hours or so, probably 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I can't remember. So I haven't been doing a whole lot, to be honest. Kind of taking a break from content and all that, and I've taken a lot of time off work and just spending time at home with the kids.
Amazing. Amazing. I missed hearing your voice, brother. You're an OG here. I love it.
Oh,
and you put out so much content that's incredible as well. That's why we were just talking about the discoveries in Texas, in the canyon, in the desert. Amazing. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, for people, again, I'm sure not all, but most people are familiar with me by now on Old World Florida. But I do a series called Anomalous America. I'm like 20 episodes in, and everything from buried cities to mummies to giant skeletons to you name it. And I just kind of go state by state, but Texas is one of my favorite states so far.
Why?
It's the biggest. So much to talk about.
My Texas episode was like 2.5 hours, and I didn't even get through a third of the material I had ready to go. So,
oh my God.
And some of the material is really crazy. It's very Atlantean, and Longo and had mentioned talking about the Great Walls of America. Texas is rich with those, and but yeah,
it's incredible.
That's
some of these finds.
Yeah, and you mentioned off air the Grand Canyon. I mean, my Arizona material is pretty insane as well. So that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Sedona seems to be like a location that I don't think people are realizing what they're looking at yet. I mean, I know some of the boys here can't stand it, but melted structures, or you know what I'm saying? Just Sedona has my eye of what I'm looking at structure wise out there. People are a lot of boots on the ground right now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is that thing? That's not natural or corrosion. And you'll find bricks and stuff too out there, which is neat. But yeah,
can't wait to get in to some Texas with you guys. I'm gonna be posting a video about Texas upcoming this week. And Cameron, shut the fuck up. And you've got just talk quiet. And blah blah blah. Let's get into some Florida news. Okay, let's quit messing around.
It's been
figure
a
out what's going on.
huge news week. There's been so much going on, and we couldn't stream last week, so we've got 2 weeks of it. It's just there's so much going on in Florida. Do we want to jump in? Alrighty, well, I'll get everything queued up.
So yeah, sorry, people are still packing up and leaving here. My bad. But
Was it all men?
oh my god, Spencer, no, there was
I
plenty
always
of
thought that.
chicks.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
There's some
They
dudes
just
who
had
look
to
like
leave early.
chicks.
It's a
But,
fair question, you know. It's
Yeah.
a fair question.
It is Lake Worth. It is Palm Beach County, Florida. So let's just see here. Jimmy,
Mm-hmm.
let's
All right.
get
So, I mean, history has occurred only mere hours ago, 2 or 3 hours ago. A craft touched down on the moon, and it's called Odysseus, obviously named after the god who did a lot of traveling. So it was, I think, last week. NASA took off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, and it was viewed. Apparently, you could see the launch from the other side of Florida, in Tampa or something, the other side of the state, which I couldn't believe. But it went up, and it's the same story. It's, I don't know, 33 boosters, and it was 911 miles, and all the interesting things in the news here. Strange devices. That this apparently was crucial. This was a strong, crucial instrument.
missing piece
Right.
to the GIMP suit.
Yep.
What?
Yep. That's probably the eyepiece. And speaking of GIMP, when you're reading NASA stories, it's always laden with double entendre. It's always got a little bit of. It always gets a little saucy if you know what you're looking for. This is a good example. The fast work from engineers on the ground and a breath-catching save from a NASA payload, which I understand is probably a scientific term, but the more you look into NASA, they get frisky over there, and sometimes the language they use is funny. They didn't resist the opportunity to actually get some stock prices up. We got Columbia. I mean, the entire thing, it wasn't even NASA. It was this Intuitive Machines, which is a private space thing. So it's like, okay, taxpayers are paying NASA like $58 million a day, but they can't build their own craft. They have to go, outside with private companies, which is cool. And then art. The art of Mr. Jeff Koons actually went up there. He made a little sculpture which he's holding there. So imaginative. It's the phases of the moon. What an incredible talent he is. And that had to go as well. That the art had to be on board the craft. So it's touched down on the lunar surface. We've got the art up there, the moon phases.
Let's just break that one down for a sec. Did anyone know about this? Like, why isn't this
exactly
like top news? Obviously it's fake. Obviously they're just tinkering with their CGI and off there at Cape Cannibal, which will be a video soon, by the way. Connection between cannibals and NASA. Has anyone looked into that? Not yet. It's coming soon. But why isn't this top news? Have you guys heard about this outside of just like conspiracy circles?
I was making
Spencer?
I was making fruit deals for you today, and like I totally missed it. So, I mean, we haven't been since when was it? The 70s or 60s? I don't know. I would think it would be bigger. Yes, I would think it would be a lot bigger as well. Yes. Next.
It's unmanned. Initially, they were talking about their plan is to get the first woman on the moon and the first person of color on the moon. So I thought that was this one, but actually that's been delayed for years, and it will be delayed for further years.
So, Jimmy, didn't they lose the technology? And I guess they found it like this past week or so.
Exactly. They did lose it, and it was too painful to rebuild.
Okay.
And so this is a real miracle of science and ingenuity. So yeah, I mean, it's baffling and it's inspiring.
I didn't hear shit, but yeah, awesome, great story.
It basically dropped the night before.
So do you think they did it? Sorry, do you think they did it to distract people from the AT&T outage across the nation? Possibly. You think it's like, hey, we landed on the moon, so people don't really think about that AT&T thing for very long. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, AT&T had to help with the bandwidth or whatever. For sure, it's a look over here.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very funny. I wanted to see. Apparently, where I am, West Palm Beach, you can see it launch, but they were actually supposed to do it on Valentine's Day or the night before, but at the last minute they went, "Oh, sorry, we have to postpone 24 hours because we're not ready." So, and then I think when they went up, certainly when they landed, now it's a full moon. So I don't know whether the actual the astrology of it perhaps has something to do with it as well. But it was, I think, a Valentine's Day launch, and just landed a couple hours ago.
Well done, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Terrific story. Killer.
Yeah.
Killer headline.
This is a shot of my home country there, and just to close the story, I had no idea growing up that it took half of the world is Australia.
Oh, do we have that picture? We don't have that picture. Can we see that?
Oh, sorry. I thought it was showing the entire screen. 1 second.
You just might have to flip a window.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Behold the most recent picture of Australia.
No way. Is this official?
This is the official image. Yeah. You can go on CNN right now. If you just Google Odie,
oh my
they're calling it Odysseus Odie. Yeah. So that's...
Wait. It's too big.
Precisely.
What is going on? That's an official image on that. Tell me that's not on NASA.
We live on planet Australia.
Exactly.
You got to be shitting me. So there's no way that's on NASA.
These are previous image. Continents are growing, gentlemen. I mean, this is an expanding universe, but it's also infinite. And also, the Earth is constantly shifting, and continents are moving, and probably they're just growing. So this was the before, and this is the current.
Oof. Gosh, how
those fucking Aborigines been doing their magic. Made
that's right.
Australia's been eating blue chews, man. Those abos have been blowing their digis so hard they swelled Australia up 2 times.
We're gonna take over the planet, right?
So here.
Yeah.
What else we got? What's the next headline?
Okay. So the rapper Kodiak Black, famous in the hip hop world. Oh,
you come to my wife's house. You say her name right. Okay. It's Kodak, not Kodiak.
Okay. As you can see, I wasn't too familiar with the vast musical catalog that we have been gifted. Well, this fine gentleman was released today from federal or state prison in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And he was greeted by the news crew. They were filming him, they were speaking with him, and he didn't like it. So this is just loading now. It's taking a little minute here. There was an altercation, and rocks were thrown, and
Rocks were thrown. I saw that he was peeking out.
There could be an album out of this.
Rocks were thrown, baby.
Who let the rocks out?
I have a video of it, but it's not seemingly loading. Yeah, he threw rocks at the camera guy, and they were screaming. You can look; it's probably all over social media. It was funny. He didn't want to have cameras in his face, so he threw rocks at them. That you could imagine if a rock was leaving his hand in that photo, that could sort of like a representation. So anyway, you can look that up to see that. Did you guys hear about that?
I did hear about this. I saw the video. It was breathtaking. He's very out of it. Gets out of jail, goes and sits behind an air conditioning unit, and then he's like throwing pebbles at the paparazzi that's trying to ask him stuff. It's very weird. He's by himself, no entourage. Like he just got out of jail. I didn't even know he was in jail. He violated probation or something like that. Spence, what do you think?
That is correct.
Kodak?
I didn't know who he was. I was busy landing fruit deals for Old World Florida and the rest of the Floridians.
Damn.
What does Ben think about Kodak in Texas?
No idea.
He's probably pretty
Kodak.
big.
Too big for me. Too big for me. I was really interested in AT&T today, though. About 5 different businesses of my buddies, they couldn't operate today because of this, and it didn't make the headlines. I guess this moon landing did, and I missed it. But yeah, this is just silly. Let's start talking old world stuff.
There's a lot of big news.
These headlines just aren't cutting it this week. The gator with the woman that got pulled in the pond. Now that was thin.
Oh yeah. So we've got the son of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's actually living in Miami. If anyone wants to hang out,
now we're talking.
He is there in. Yes, he's not serving in the government. He's 32 years old. He doesn't have a position of power. He is living in Hallandale Beach, if anyone's familiar.
Yep.
And he gets up of a morning. He has his herbal tea. Here we can see him bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready for the day. And it's quite an expensive high-rise right on the beach. It's about $500 a month. And he's having a great time. And there's been calls. Sorry,
you guys, all good. You guys remember back in time when a nation went to war, the king went to war, the prince went to war. You know, it didn't matter who you were. You went to war. You fought for your country. What is Netanyahu's? This guy's more like Modest Yahoo, if you ask me. This is Modest Yahoo on his Miami apartment. But you know, how shameful, how embarrassing to he's essentially the prince of Israel to be running around doing poppers in Miami with a bunch of, you know, dudes, I assume. Peace, David. Adios. Get home safe. Night night. All right, I guess Jimmy popped out, but Netanyahu, for those who don't know, prime minister or ex-prime minister, I'm not sure, whatever his title was, the president of Israel, essentially. His son is not in Israel, not defending his country, right? In
Right.
Miami, defending the true Holy Land, maybe, perhaps, defending the Holy Land. But he's not in Israel. He's in Florida. He's hiding in Florida. You know.
Do you think he's banished?
I don't I don't think he's banished. I think he's being protected. You know,
Now we're
he's
talking.
not safe in Israel, and send him to the true promised land where
Yeah,
there are
little
no terrorist attacks. You know.
too much valuable ports and trade going on here. They still don't mess with this place really. They even steer the hurricanes away from our values. So it is a pretty protected land, I still think.
Amen. So that's who he is. He's in Miami. That's big news, guys. That's like, imagine if America was at war, which I don't know, maybe consider we are. And then the Trumps were not in America. We're not in the country that we're fighting. They're in, Honduras. They're in Costa Rica. Could you imagine?
No.
So yeah. What else we got?
I'm
That's
having
it?
some technical issues. The next story, killing crack bears is a commonplace, part of Florida life. Doctor, I'm sure you would agree. Now it's legally protected, as it should be under the Constitution. Spence, I'm sure you've had your run-ins.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Take
them.
this away.
I've seen plenty of black bears where they shouldn't be, but never. What's a crack bear? Is that like a bear that literally, like the movie, the cocaine bear stuff? Is that what we're talking about? What's a crack bear in Tampa?
Well, I've never heard of such a thing. I'm absolutely fascinated. The bill was dubbed the Cocaine Bear Bill, after Floridians have now had the right to protect themselves against. I mean, who knows?
The ones that are on crack, it says. Wow.
It's defined as bears that are deemed an imminent threat. So
okay. I mean, we have open carry in Florida now too, and anytime back in the day you could open carry if you were hunting, camping, or fishing. So generally, if you saw a black bear and you were smart enough to have a weapon on you, you could have gave them a little do-si-do if you wanted. But now, I mean, we don't even have to have concealed carry now. So yeah, poor black bears.
Awesome.
They're not going to do well if they're on crack coming in people's doors.
Jimmy, is
That's
the
right.
crack bears, was that actually an issue? Or is the crack like a hypothetical? Or were bears
Yeah,
doing
I
crack?
think it's something that's been drummed up on social media. It's the bill was sponsored that, but I think it does, as Spence said, it has a lot to do with that movie that came out. So it's good that when there's bears around, we can defend ourselves in Florida. Now, over in Delray Beach, of late, there has been an artwork. One could call it. It's a colorful crosswalk in the middle of town there. Residents would walk over it every day. A young Florida gentleman, 19-year-old Dylan Brewer. He was going about his business of an evening, a local of Delray Beach, when he drove his truck, adorned with the flag, of course, over the crosswalk. And when we talk about art and street art, it is added to works of Banksy. They say it's not just the piece, it's what happens to it. And this young gentleman has been arrested and is being charged with adding to this public artwork.
He's a performance artist. They put static art, and he performed on top of it. They don't like that. They should, take it up with the gods of art. That's art. It's outside of your jurisdiction.
Yeah.
If he wants to do a burnout on a rainbow-colored crosswalk, that's his right. It's his First Amendment right. It's his Second Amendment right to use his pickup truck as a weapon against any domestic threats.
Yes.
Which that crosswalk was a domestic threat. He's the second guy to do this. They threw the last guy in jail. He was an older guy. But what do I see here, Jimmy? I see our king. I see
Exactly.
the king we were blessed with. that we might not deserve. But this gentleman,
The Chad King.
my king. What's up, Chodes?
Because yeah, it's art. What is art if not a voice of the people, an expression of the zeitgeist of the moment? One artwork is made, another is made in response to it. So it starts a conversation. And just because we're told that a flag or a symbol is representative of a certain thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is.
Exactly.
What a symbol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think of that. I don't want to say it like in full. The one that goes like this. Or
the Star of
the
David.
schwas. The schwas. No, the schwas. I mean, when you look at the constellations,
the Hindu
relative
symbol.
to ancient times. Yeah, I mean,
ancient.
I think they've taken so many symbols and corrupted them, and we know that flag is the reverse of the chakras. Everyone caught that, right?
Oh, the order of the colors.
Yes, sir. So the pride flag is a reverse of the chakras, and I'm sure that's not intentional, but yeah. I mean, come on.
Oh, here's the big thing. It's not just a reversal. It's -1.
Yep.
It's 6 colors, not 7. Guys, do not think to yourselves, oh, rainbows are evil. They took the rainbow, they claimed it. No.
Nope.
The 7-colored chromatic natural rainbow is divine. That is God's covenant, his sign to the earth, that he will not flood the earth again. His sign to humanity, his promise. Now they rub that sign in his face, tempting God. Oh, you come flood us again, come flood us again. I bet you won't. I bet you won't. You said you wouldn't. Hey, be quiet. Cam, go away. The 6 colors are evil. The 7 colors are divine, harmonious, natural. The 6 colors, you'll always see the pride colors having 6, never 7. That's the difference. There's no geometry involved. It's missing. It's deprived.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah, the word pink comes from the Latin word flesh. So it's pretty obvious to me. Like you were saying, you're kind of laughing in God's face, adding that color to the rainbow, right? Divinities blended, because what does flesh do, right? Flesh colored, of the flesh, incarnation.
Pink Himalayan sea salt. Whoa, flesh, pink flesh. Wow.
Himalayan pink sock, more like. You guys know what a pink sock is?
What? No.
Oh, Cam knows. This kid knows what the pink sock is.
Every day of the week, baby.
What's the pink sock?
Is it prolapse?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, yeah.
It's a prolapse.
Listen, I'm prolapse.
Oh, wow.
Oh. So glad that I know that now.
The pink sock. Yeah, that's why they have. No, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
this
one
is your
could
Masonic
argue.
sex joke. You've got your red socks and your white socks. Red socks and white socks. Mix them together. What team does that make? Disgusting.
Makes a mess.
Here's an interesting comment. Rainbows prove we are still underwater, still technically, sort of. The water vapor still abundant. That was a comment in the chat. I like that. I like the way they said that.
Yeah, because what really creates the rainbow that we see in the sky? It's
let there be light. That's full light spectrum.
Exactly, and the shape of it. It's very interesting. So anyway, that is a local Del Rayan who is he's getting the book thrown at him because certain symbols and flags are at times deemed sacred, and certain First Amendment rights don't apply. The next story is a very interesting interview between Florida's Surgeon General, current serving Surgeon General, Joseph Lopado, I had an interview with Tucker Carlson. If you Google it, it's actually hard to find because there is no media, there's no stories written about it, no articles, and they constantly deleting him from Twitter. They're constantly taking down videos and from YouTube as well, because all through the last few years, Florida's Surgeon General has had very different opinions about the science and the medicine and the entire discussion. I don't know if you guys have even heard of him, because I hadn't until this interview, which was very interesting.
Oh yeah. I think it's a big deal the way he talks about it, because nobody else is that open about it, Surgeon General wise, in the country.
Yes, exactly. And the way he talked about it, the most interesting thing, because yeah, there's whistleblowers, whatever. The most interesting thing was the language that he used. It was very spiritual. It was very akin to deep faith. It was not the way I've ever seen a medical professional or a science professional or a politician speak. So it's worth a watch.
That is true. It was actually gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It catches you by surprise, because you think, okay, here we go. Oh, COVID is this, and probably just got demonetized for saying it. There's so much sensitivity around it. But he was speaking about God. He was speaking about frequency. He was speaking about energy. He was speaking about what is human and what is not human.
Can you click on that first window just to blow it up, please?
Yeah.
So people can see the interview.
Professor, I believe, Professor Joseph Lapado. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. He seemed really centered, and he seemed really genuine. Anyway, check it out. It keeps getting deleted from YouTube, but you can just search by upload date and you can find it.
He's as good as it gets as far as government officials having your back. You know, always take it with a grain of salt. Always look out for yourself. Always be critical. But this guy is someone I want in the administration for years to come.
Yes. And he's up against a lot of backlash, obviously. And on Twitter, everything he tweets is constantly being deleted. So anyway, check that out. Very interesting. And we're currently, it's a bit of a long shot, but we'd love him to come on the show. So Joseph, if you're watching, we would love to, because Tucker, you know, as soon as things got too spiritual, meaningful.
If you're watching, put the gun down. let the hotel maid go. Okay. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Bad joke.
Yeah. He did not kill himself. Next story is a bit of a funny one. Florida man broke into a Georgia home and made himself a cup of hot chocolate. So, you know, the reputation of the fun-loving, happy-go-lucky Florida man, wherever he goes, he loves sweet things like fruit, the fruit that grows abundantly in Florida, and just having a good time.
Riveting.
Speaking of riveting, have you ever seen a shark and a stingray?
Oh, here we go.
Copulating.
Now we're talking.
All right, now we're in Florida. Now you got Spencer's.
Experts say it is a beautiful sight. I've never beheld such a sight. Stingray virgin pregnancy, which has sparked a lot of theories. A stingray gave birth, and they think it was half shark. And then others think that stingrays can withhold semen for years, for 8 years. And then
is that
others
Spencer, is that correct?
Speculate that it's some sort of
I don't know, but it did
function?
look like a nurse shark. It did look like a nurse shark in the back of the tank. So if it was a nurse shark, we know that they're both on the ocean floor, basically humping and bumping uglies on accident all day, every day. So, I mean, it's possible. I don't know about the 8-year thing, but man, I've seen stingrays and nurse sharks literally bumping heads thousands of times in my life.
Wow.
I wish.
How close are the breeds?
They're very close.
Like,
Stingrays are closest to sharks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yo, and nurse sharks
Well, there
are
we go.
literally, they just stick to the bottom. They don't hardly ever come up. They're like the catfish of sharks, man. They stick to the bottom just like the daggum stingrays.
right.
That's why, if that's true, that's wild.
Wow.
I want a pup. I want to
So
pup
this
it and
was a-
put it in a tank.
Yes.
So, interesting. I wish we had either Shem or Juan here, our resident shark jizz experts. But I did have one little thing that kind of gives this some interesting perspective. Did you know that, the mermaid story, according to Europeans, mermaids were, these women swimming in the waters of America or wherever else back in early colonial times. The Spaniards would hallucinate and think that manatees or dolphins were mermaids, beautiful women, sirens calling them into the water. And people always joke, like, manatees, they're so ugly, how would they think they're mermaids? Well, did you know
Kelp.
that to the Florida natives, to the Florida Indians, the Timucua, the Calusa, all these people, their version of the mermaid, their, siren, sea deity, sea goddess, was not half manatee and half woman. It was half stingray and half woman. So the natives of Florida, their kind of primary princess, goddess of the nature, goddess of the ocean, this kind of, little mermaid figure for them was half woman, half stingray. And she went by the name of Qualenia. Some people say that that name's been attributed later, but regardless, I want to show you here. This is Qualenia. Now, this stingray, some people say this is a hummingbird. The jury's out on this, whether it's a hummingbird or a stingray. But this stingray mermaid is etched onto a stone. A lot of people say this is Florida's only petroglyph. That's not true. I've been to a couple petroglyphs in Florida. But for a lot of the mainstream guys, they only know about this one. So a lot of times you'll hear this being said as the only petroglyph in Florida. That's not true, but that's what they say. Now this is Crystal River, Florida, which is central Florida on the north, up to the north on the west coast. And Crystal River, just north of Tarpon Springs, is interesting for a number of reasons. They think it may have been a Maya site. People always say, oh, the Aztec, the Maya, did they go here? Did they go here? Well, Crystal River is the most convincing, most compelling Maya site that is not official Maya territory or official Maya conquests. So that's Crystal River. They have Maya glyphs. They have Maya bowls, Maya pottery, Maya arrangement to their pyramids, to the earthen mounds there. But what else do they have? They have a face petroglyph there, and this one, which is either a hummingbird or a stingray. And I could be wrong, there might be both. But this stingray is Qualenia, Indian goddess, mermaid, princess, whatever you want to say.
You can trace it all the way through the Polynesians, New Zealand, Hawaii, Pacific Islands. It's the same thing. Very similar root name as well.
Really?
And I'm going to murder this, so I'm Hawaiian. Apologies for anyone that's better with Hawaiian than me, but Kanaloa or Kanalua or something like that is the goddess of the water. And it's I don't think it's a stingray, it's a manta ray, if I remember correctly.
There you go.
So, but yeah, the symbolism, so the trident, the speared tail, forked tail symbology is very similar to the ones you find in Florida and the Gulf as well.
The manta ray
Starbucks.
does fly. It does fly, guys. I mean, you've seen them launch, right, boys? I've seen them many times live, just launching and flying for just, probably 10 to 15 yards right in front of me.
Wow. The symbolism
big.
with the logo of Starbucks with a forked tail, is that similar, Ben? Is that a reference to this goddess?
Is that Melusine?
No, it's not. That's kind of like the dualistic nature of the sea creature interacting with the land lubbers. When you study the symbology of the siren, the luring of the flesh to the waters and the kind of symbolical nature of it.
Mm.
But there's a lot to that whole siren mythos. It goes pretty deep and gets pretty culty. But
Right.
I posted articles. They found skeletons of what they called mermaids in Mexico City in the 1800s. So whether or not you want to believe that they're real or not, but the myth of them being animals, many cultures had that myth that it was really just animals.
Really?
But there were also many cultures that knew that they were real and that they were half human, all kinds of things. This kind of mythological age, I do think, bleeds over in that there were hybrids between sea creatures and animals and man.
Wow.
I mean, the Bible's quite blatant about it, that man started fucking with God's creation, kind of like the flag coloration we were just talking about, but it goes quite a bit deeper. But yeah, there were half, the centaurs and all of these kind of Lord of the Rings-esque characters, I do believe, are far more realistic and likely. I have all kinds of skeletons you can imagine, winged skeletons, people with tails. There's still genetic anomalies in humans found today of tails. There are still humans born with tails, or what would be called the remnant of a tail. There's still humans born in Africa that have the remnants of filters, gills on their ears. This is kind of, again, the crossover with Waterworld. One day we'll have to just do an episode on Waterworld. But yeah, the kind of Mount Meru hybrid hangover from Atlantean ages. But the mermaid ties, I mean, again, that's a long run-on sentence, but historically, I do believe it's more likely that they actually existed in the form that we see them, whether they're shapeshifters or who knows what. Kind of the Hawaiian narrative is that they were shapeshifters, that gods they could walk among men and they could transform into animals. So it's kind of pick your poison, whatever your belief is. Everyone feels differently about it.
Right.
I went from literally visualizing. So I see manatees, they eat kelp all day, this algae, right? You guys have seen these algae blooms that the manatees just mow down. Well, they'll swim through it and then they'll have it like over their heads. And I was just picturing this big old fat sea cow with a bunch of algae. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely see that being a woman if I was eating some psilocybin or something, or tripping, whatever, native. And then all of a sudden you go old world and I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And so my brain just literally flipped just like that when you brought all that up.
Very good. Stingray. We'll keep tabs on that one. We'll return to the Stingray story, I'm sure. Stingray story soon, I'm sure. Once we get some updates on it. What else we got, James?
Yeah. Well, just to wrap up, gentlemen, there's something that's become kind of a meme. A Florida police officer believed that they were being fired upon, and so they opened fire in retaliation, shooting a car. But what had actually happened was acorns had just fallen on that car's bonnet, creating
Now,
the noise
for
that
us,
the police officer thought was gunfire.
Jimmy, for us low IQ Americans, what is a bonnet?
Yeah.
What's a bonnet?
Oh, I mean the hood, I think, right? You call it the hood. The hood. Or just on the top of the car. Acorns were falling on this car, and this cop just spun around, did a commando roll, and then just emptied a clip into this car in a very residential suburban street. I think you can see someone riding their bike just across the road. People are just like
that
walking.
really happened?
Oh, you haven't heard about this, Spence?
No.
Jesse Hernandez.
The guy was walking. They booked someone in their car, like he's booked, like days done, like they're going back to the jail or whatever.
Yeah.
In this police car.
Mm-hmm. The guy's walking back around his car, and then you don't even hear anything. It doesn't even sound like anything. It almost seems like he trips and plays it off like he got shot at. He like trips and then looks back and everything's okay. No one's shooting. And he goes, "Shots fired, shots fired."
I'm hit. He literally says, "I'm
roll.
hit."
Yeah. He does a commando roll, unloads on his own car, and he screams at the other cop to shoot at his car. She's like, "Where is he?" And he's like, "In there." And they both start unloading. And the guy's in the car, handcuffed.
Yeah.
Bullets whizzing by. And he can't do anything. I think all he did was like argue with his girlfriend or like had a warrant. He didn't even do anything that bad. Maybe he did. Who knows? But
good gosh. That's extreme. That's Florida extreme right there, baby.
So they dumped at least 2 mags into this car. Didn't shoot him once. The guy was fine.
He's got the Lord on his side right there.
And I don't even know if it was an acorn though, because if you read the like deposition or the official account of what happened, they even say they're asking him. They're interviewing him, other detectives, because he's in hot water, right? Of course, not that hot because he's not in jail. He resigned. If I'm not mistaken, the cop.
Oh yeah.
But they're asking him what it was. Like he didn't. At no point did he tell them, "Oh, it was an acorn," and I got confused. He was saying, "I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened." And then
sounds like I feel weird.
And then they were going, "Well, was it a dog?" He's like, "No." They're like, "Was it an acorn?" And he goes, He goes, "That." He's like, "That might have been it."
Oh my God.
Then they go,
There we go.
"Okay, it was an acorn." That's literally how it went.
That's a good one.
In the documents.
So stupid. Yeah, whatever.
You can watch it on social media, but this is just playing a live footage now. Yeah, Jesse Hernandez. It brings a lot of questions in. I mean, is there a thing with cops where obviously there's a lot of brave, brilliant officers of the law out there, but is there sometimes a thing where, there's a blackmail thing where there could be footage of certain officers doing certain things and they say, okay, everyone needs to toe the line or we release your footage. Right? I mean, it's just I'm applying the politics and positions of power rule to this.
Something like that to me is overreacting. I went to the academy, was Florida State certified when I was 22, and I remember felony traffic stops. I remember thinking, you say, "Don't pull your hands out of your pocket. Don't pull your hands out of your pocket," and you already have your gun drawn. And guess what? The SWAT team does that's training you. They pull their hands out of their pocket. Are you blasting somebody? And so literally when you work, if you're new or you're anxious at all, or you're, you're not experienced, anything that scares you, there are people that are just defensive safety trigger happy. And so when I
Right.
hear that story, I hear a cover up for a literal retard trigger, self-defense safety mechanism. Because, I remember thinking to myself, you cannot react faster than whatever you're dealing with acts. And once you realize that and you're in the field and you're out there working, there's literally nothing you can do. You're either letting something happen to you and reacting, or you're not going to let it happen and you act first. And there's a lot of scared little anxious officers that aren't willing to let something actually happen before they start returning fire. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Were you almost a cop, Spencer?
I was
can
state
see it.
certified and I was hired. Yes, sir. I was hired. Yeah.
So you were a cop.
Amen. Sergeant Spence.
I'm not even going to tell you. I pushed the training manual and the badge and the gun back across the table. They offered me the same amount of money I was making as a lifeguard at the local YMCA. And the shifts were awful. And they were going to give me this old junk Crown Vic. And it was my hometown, but I was like, I'm not going into Cracktown for that pay. And I'm just going to wait and get hired at, the local sheriff's department and wait out. I had 3 tickets when I was in high school in the same spot, in the same setting. So those were my only tickets I had, but they were within 5 years. So I couldn't get hired at 22. And basically, I started writing country songs right after that. The end.
Nice.
Cool.
Got a talent agent. I said, CD you later.
All right, undercover Spencer.
Yeah, baby.
That's how he'll be known from now on. Undercover Spence.
The state exam is in DeLand. That was the first time I went to DeLand, Florida. You've covered it many times. So I took the state exam in DeLand and passed it first try, whatever.
Sure.
A man on DeLand.
Dude, I like that. DeLand.
In the 1800s, they used to write about. It was very simple to pick a police officer. You just had to look at their astrology.
They still do psychology like that, don't they? They pick.
Yeah, but they're not writing in the newspapers like that officer that you're talking about in this article. The way they would have broke it down in the 1800s, they would have been like, "Well, look at his oppositions. This guy shouldn't even be a cop."
No way.
Oh yeah, they'd go into it. They talked about it in politics. They talked about it in presidents.
Wow.
They talked about what makes a good leader, and yeah, it's funny.
When did you see astrology leave archives and reporting and news? When do you think you saw astrology go away like that in the public figure, propaganda-wise?
Probably the early 1900s, 20s, 30s, right before World War I. Everything changed after World War I.
Wow, I had never heard that before.
And they never left the newspapers. It just went next to the skits, to the cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
It went from business, finance,
front page,
to comics.
Oh yeah, business, exactly, finance. Yeah, I mean, they joke around about why the Jews were so financially successful, and it's because they followed the stars. And everyone's heard the adage, a millionaire knows nothing of astrology, but a billionaire certainly does.
Oh yeah.
And that adage is 200 years old. Rockefeller, Mr. Florida himself, all those guys were well acquainted with it. That was the key, was getting it out of the kind of obviously bastardizing it, like you said, and putting it next to the comics.
Wow. So just that you'd be reading the news and it would say, "Oh, Henry Flagler, who is
Well, it wasn't like everyday news. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like they were talking about this every day. But yeah, there were plenty of articles, and they would even show charts in some of them.
Oh, wow.
They'd show the person's chart, and they'd talk about, things that are showing obvious signs of poor leadership, whatever it is. They do these things for politicians and police officers. But yeah, you don't see that anymore.
In your work, have you featured some of those findings, some of those newspapers?
Yeah, I mean, I probably pull up at least one of them. But yeah, Brilliant. Of course. I mean, the reality again is that almost 10,000 posts. It's finding them is always the tricky part. Twitter,
you are the archivist.
Yeah, Twitter isn't the most reliable when it comes to looking up posts from, I've been on Twitter for over a decade. So, but yeah, I can find one at least, I think.
Brilliant. You are the
And just
archivist.
for the viewers, I personally had a guy that I was talking to. I think it was in 2020 when we had our crazy market runs that were pretty temporary and a new thing, a new normal, if you will. He was making big bucks on cryptocurrency in the moon phases, and he was literally just playing the moon, knowing the energies that would be present via the type of characters involved in cryptocurrency, the statistical norm of your archetype in cryptocurrency at the time, and he was just crushing it. And he's like, dude, I'm just playing the phase of the moon. So for people that don't think astrology is absolutely energetically huge when it comes to banking, that right there is just a micro example of what I saw. And this guy was like, I kind of knew him. He was our age, or I'm 35. So he was like probably like 33 or something. He was just smoking it in 2020, following moon cycles.
Wow.
Well, yeah, and the moon cycle thing too is because there was a big breakdown on a lot of the, not only that, but stock market trading, and they found that the Jewish calendar was the most accurate when it came to like mathematically forecasting trends in the finance world. And the same is true with crypto. It follows the Jewish calendar, which again, the Jewish calendar is more lunar than it is solar. So I would think that's probably a reality for many of them. That's the kind of tricky thing about finance. That's the hidden side of finance, right?
Yeah.
The solar aspects of finance are where the everyday person gets lost, and they're like watching CNN, and they're, whatever that guy's name was, who's telling you to buy this and buy that. Really, the S&P, if you just
Jim
follow
Cramer.
the S&P, Jim Cramer. All those guys are kind of the solar representations of finance. But when you follow the more feminine aspects of finance, you find, again, like all aspects of the feminine side, is that it's hidden, right? The kind of subconscious parts of trading. And if you really analyze how humans work and how we're all part of one big system, that's the trick with these billionaires and these hedge funders and all these people, is they're following that they're like Neo. They see the numbers. They're not manipulating, although they do plenty of manipulation, don't get me wrong. But the reality is they're kind of see themselves as a Neo, because they're following these principles that have been around for, since Christ, since 8 BC, and it all goes back again to just realizing you're outside of the system if you think you really have any real influence on it.
Yeah, I see goods and services. So I see money as energy, and energy as money, stores of value. But also, once you have it, goods and services moving, and then you have, the flowing of this goods and services and the energy, and that all directly relates to when things grow, when things are present, when they aren't. So seasonally, these entities are moving according to aligned planets and things like that, and all of that. So I could 100% see the physical being affected by even our metaphysical and spiritual and higher energies, all abundant and around. And so, like you're saying, it is like a giant matrix. But when you really break down the matrix, Mother Nature is like a hippie chick that it's almost obvious. It's so simple. And so once they understand the hippie chick, that's awesome. I like the way you put that. They understand the matrix and they see it as numbers. But I also see understanding how like a flat earth cosmology and seasons and all the sun and moon, when cycles are going to happen. So what industry cycles are going to happen next. And that's crazy to think about.
There's actually, so I know everyone's used to like your finance chart that's plotted on an X and Y, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's actually finance charts that are circles. And those are by far the most accurate. In fact, the most accurate Bitcoin chart that there is circular.
So can I just real quick, guys?
Please.
One of my favorite myths, fallacies, follies that I like to correct, that it's my duty to correct.
Let's go.
There are not 13 zodiac signs.
Oh,
There are not, there cannot be, there never will be, there never has. There's not some grand cover up. There's not Ophiuchus or Serpentes or none of it. There are 12 zodiac signs. Lunar calendar is its own thing. Do not shoot yourself in the foot by thinking 13 is the answer to the 12. 12 is good to go, guys. It's good. Western tropical astrology does not care whether you understand it or not. If you think that 13 is the whole secret that no one's got, good luck with that. It's the moon calendar. There's 13 lunar months.
Taylor Swift.
12 solar zodiac. 12 solar zodiac signs. Cannot change. Sorry, Dave, I'm not trying to make an example out of you. Just the comment. The lunar calendar has 13 months. True. Because there are 13 signs? No. Go back to the drawing board. Where did you hear that? Probably someone else, because everyone's saying this. Everyone's always like, oh, we're actually in the 13. We got taken out of the 13. Our time's all out of whack. We're so lost. Oh, they reset everything and we don't know where we are and we never will. Wrong. Learn your astrology. We're right where we're supposed to be. Guess what, guys? The equinox is always the same. Same place, same day, year after year after year after year. It's that simple.
Yeah, I've posted a lot about this because I get this a lot, and people ask me, like, what do you have? It's like, well, I posted about this like 10 years ago, and it was actually a move by a bunch of bankers, bankers and industrialists in the mid-20s who wanted to change the calendar to 13 months. People keep sending me pictures of encyclopedias from the 1800s that show 13. They do not. All that they changed was that the days of the week were different. In the 1800s, they were different. Sunday was the first day of the week. Saturn was the true seventh day, the true Sabbath, Saturn's day. You started the week on Sunday. That's really all that's changed. And so anyways, these businessmen and these bankers, it was a way to save money because they could get, just like the Phoenicians coming up with a trading language, that they found a way it was easier and it was just a way to streamline things in a sense. That's what they were trying to do with the calendar. And this is all in the 20s. If you really dig deep enough, you'll find plenty of evidence. There was only 12-month calendar prior to this, all the way till I've posted plenty from the early 1800s. Anyways, so yeah, I agree with you there, and it failed miserably. It was really just a ploy to save money, streamline, getting everybody on the same time frames, getting rid of these weird different canonical months and so on and so forth. But yeah, that all started in the 20s. There was nothing going on prior to that, at least for 150 years that I can find.
So here's your lunar calendar on the right here. 13 times 28 equals 364.
Yeah.
Perfect year. That is not at all conflicting with the solar year, which is also 364 days, by the way. We're not missing. It makes me so angry.
Whoa, bro.
It makes me feel like no one's listening to what I'm saying. The only despair I ever get. I'm so hopeful for humanity. We're going to be good. The Illuminati is going to be eating bugs in their cellars in a couple years, and humanity is going to be fine. But I feel like
Sure, yeah.
I feel like this is landing on deaf ears. It horrifies me when someone says there's actually 13 zodiac signs. It's like saying the sky is red. It's like saying water is red. It's like saying the sun is cold. It's such stupidity. It's such, oh, I want to be a conspiracy theorist. Oh, I want everything to be out of sync so that I have something to complain about. That's the way I view it. I've said it in so many of my streams. There's 12 zodiac signs. Zodia. Zodia. 2 plus 10. 2 plus 10. Zodia. That means 12. You'll see many languages, 12, their word for 12 starts with the Z. Or their word for 2 starts with a Z. That's why so is the same word as 2. And dia is dies, 10 in Latin. Dia. 12 zodiac signs. Take it to the bank. I actually love explaining this. But I hope.
I noticed a bunch of Freemasons. When I say Freemasons, the propagandists that were out spitting a lot of the 13th constellation game, to me, ended up being Freemasons to the level of they were like propaganda script keepers. And so it seemed like the 13th constellation was pumped out there on the internet, and it seemed very scripted and engineered to me. So it did look very sloppy, almost like damage control-ish. Always to me.
Well, the 13th sign was the sun. It wasn't it wasn't a star symbol to the Mason.
Okay.
You know, any learned Mason will tell you that.
Okay.
The generative principle, the G, is the 13th sign. Yep. It doesn't mean a star sign.
If a wheel has 12 spokes, does it have 13? No. A wheel with 12 spokes has 12 spokes and 1 dot in the center. Now that 1 dot in the center means a whole lot, but it's not a spoke. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the monad, the symbol of the monad.
You can eviscerate all of these 13th sign people, all these 13th sign losers who only want to undermine hardworking astrologers with their "ooh, we're out of sync" trip. Okay? How to eviscerate them once and for all, right? Go find a clock and make it work with 13 hands. Go find a musical instrument and make it work with 13 notes.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying
restrict
yourself to 13 pitches. I'm saying divide, see if nature will rearrange itself, realign itself to a 13ness.
No, geometry is 12.
Won't. It is 12. There is divine, you can't see it, but there is divine, concrete, cement order, proportion to the universe. There's 12 even separations, 12 even points along this infinite spectrum that do not falter. They don't skip. It is 12. It is 12.
Do we see 12 or 13 in these megalithic structures? We see 12. You know, we don't see odd. We're even. That's where the strength is at in geometry.
Well, it's like the foundations of the triskaidekaphobia thing, which is very...
What?
The fear of the number 13. You never heard of that?
Triskaidekaphobia. No, that's a new one.
Maybe I have some of that.
There's a lot of buildings that don't have a 13th floor. There's all kinds of stuff like this. Street numbers will go 12, 14. You have to look into it. But the superstition goes back to kind of an astrology base, similar to what we're talking about here. But yeah, I have an article pulled up I found, if you want me to read it real quick, about a newspaper clipping where they're describing how to choose a good policeman from a bad based on his horoscope.
Yes.
Oh, please.
Yes.
You got to add me, Longo.
Got you.
Okay, so this is from the mid 1880s. And it may be hard to see. Let me zoom in.
Nice.
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
There we go. Okay, so at the bottom on the left it says horoscope of the bad policeman. A man born when the heavenly signs are so placed is barred by their influence from possession of nearly all of a good policeman's qualifications. And then on the right, it says horoscope of the good policeman, showing what is the ideal position of the sun and the stars at his birth, giving him valor, honesty, physical strength, and respect for laws. So obviously, Longo, you'd do a better breakdown, but this
Yeah.
gentleman is a Leo. This gentleman's Sagittarius.
Can I break it down?
Please do, yeah.
No, keep going.
Wow.
Whenever
I'll
you're
read
done.
the actual article after you break this down.
Sure. So on the left, these are the given examples, right? On the left is the bad cop.
Correct.
That chart on the right is the good cop. So I'll see what jumps out to me. Number 1, where's the sun? I don't know if I can see the sun. Oh, the sun.
This is on his ascendant right here.
Let's just look at what's on his ascendant, because that's where you always look when you're doing a birth chart. You look straight to the left. What's rising? What's on the horizon? So on the bad cop, we've got Mars. That's a piece of shit. That's a guy who's gonna just trying to show you how big his dick is, trying to stomp on your toes, pull you over, assert dominance. You know, Mars is the dog of war. It rules discipline, but it also rules kind of chaos and unchecked male aggression. This is very much your bad cop, aggressive cop archetype. So that's Mars right on the ascendant. People with Mars on the ascendant too tend to deal with like acne, skin issues, inflammation on the skin, on the surface, red, it's fiery, it's hot, it's agitating. Then you've got Venus on the ascendant, which you could, in a best case scenario would balance out Mars. But Venus on the ascendant will make you vain. Ooh, look at me, I'm a cop, look at my tight pants and my holster and,
I got a
shiny
gun.
boots. And that's Venus, very vain, that's the goddess of beauty and love. And now that's something good for like a model, for like a, hand model, cosmetic industry. That's perfect. That's what you want. But for a cop, that's not what you want. You want something that's just and impartial and balanced, and not worried about how things look or emotions. So blah, blah, blah. Just moving quicker. Uranus. Uranus brings chaos, and it's where we get the word random. So this is not a planet of order. This is a planet of like extreme change or of volatility. It's just not working. It's not something you want, in your cop. Uranus, Neptune. These are very like heady, spiritual style planets in the psychology and into the spirituality. And then Saturn. Saturn close to the ascendant. Saturn close to the ascendant is going to bring way more of that bad cop energy. This is not necessarily aggressive cop. This is rotten cop. This is cop that wants to put you away, set you up, and smile the whole time and pretend he was your buddy the whole time. This is the backstabber. This is Saturn in its worst.
And in opposition to Jupiter, right?
Right, and that's
never good.
The last part here is Jupiter, who's supposed to be the just one, the arbiter of truth, belief, faith, the society looking after itself and everything running smooth. Jupiter is setting. So the rising planets are right there in your face, dominating the chart. What's setting on the other end? Jupiter. That's the peaceful planet. Setting. Losing, not holding sway over the rest of the chart. It's at its weakest. It's setting, and because it is setting, and because Saturn is rising, those two are in direct opposition, which is bad.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And when
because they'd always talk about Saturn and Jupiter oppositions, the whole story again of Saturn being jealous and trying to, dispose of his son Jupiter and his mother having to save him. Mm-hmm. When those two are in opposition in a chart, you'll kind of have those two, not bipolar, but kind of constant fight with morality and right and wrong. the
Yeah.
the angel and the devil on the shoulders kind of idea.
Also, we've got in the bad cop, we've got Scorpio ascendant. Scorpio ascendant, I love Scorpios, my favorite sign of the zodiac. You know, just to talk about as a concept. It's so deep. But what you have is this obsession. That's where we get the word obsession. Obscene, obsess, obsidian, obsolete, to be dead. You know, all this has to do with Scorpio. These are Scorpio words. And Scorpio is darkness. It's temptation. It's backstabbing. Like I said, so much good to Scorpio, especially in a focus, you know, diligent work setting. But they have not a soft spot, a weak spot for bloodlust, for gore. Your Scorpios in ancient times, your Scorpios were your assassins. That's where we get the word assassin. Scorpio rules the buttocks and the anus. Assassin. You ever wonder why that word's so
Yeah,
rude?
because they get you from behind.
Oh
Exactly.
my gosh.
Exactly. That's
Oh my
Scorpio.
gosh.
The scorpion's the backstabber. The only animal that can look you in the eyes and stab you over and around your back at the same time. So
Wow.
that's Scorpio. Like I said, Scorpios are great. I love Scorpios. Very passionate people. But Scorpio, in someone who's holding a lot of death dealing responsibility, with all these other bad planetary,
Not good.
this is someone who's gonna pull the trigger. This is someone who's gonna say, "Hey, you in the hoodie, stop!" and then pull the trigger regardless.
When you pull out your Skittles, yeah.
Now on the right here, this is very contrasted by the benevolence in Pisces. Pisces is supposed to be the most benevolent sign of the zodiac. They're the wisest. They'll take their time. They will not pull the trigger. Kind of like you were saying earlier, Spencer.
Yeah.
Pisces is the type of sign, I'm not kidding, to let the criminal shoot at them until they are until they're actually okay. Now it's my turn to shoot. Now I can take a life. Pisces are pushovers. They're pussies. They're passive. They're peaceful. They're pacifists. All these words go back to Pisces. They are, ideally, you're going to have made it through the police academy, so you're not too much of a pussy. But you want that wisdom. You want that reaction rather than foolish action. So Pisces are very patient, too. There's another Pisces word, patient. And they're good on their feet. Pisces tend to be good runners. Not always, but on your feet. Good drivers, patient, cool-headed is the big thing here. So much responsibility, so much power. I know so much of us might think, well, hey, Aries, let's get an Aries in there. Get an Aries into the policeman role. He'll go chase out the crime, he'll stomp it out, Well, that's not all cops are doing. 90% of the job is keeping your head cool, passing time.
Mm.
And Pisces are good at that. Pisces are good with power. If you hand Pisces a lot of power, they tend to be more apt, more put together for that, so to speak. Just all things being equal, assuming you have a good, not a bad apple, Pisces tend to handle power well. Whereas a fire sign might kind of, use power. Scorpio, if you give a Scorpio power, someone's going to end up tied up or
Yep.
gagged or, kidnapped or disappeared. So Pisces is it's a safe bet. Now, that's the ascendant. I might have been talking like that was the sun sign, but regardless, that's the ascendant, Pisces. So Scorpio on the left, Pisces on the right. I think they're saying that the ideal cop is a sun Sagittarius. Sagittarius is also supposed to be benevolent. They're both ruled by Jupiter. But the main takeaway is that Jupiter is on the ascendant. Jupiter is on the ascendant on the good cop. This is someone who is driven by truth, peace, wisdom, is perhaps too soft. This is kind of what you want out of someone who's holding a gun. You want them to really think about it before they pull the trigger. Now, you might argue with that and say, well, we've all seen videos where maybe there should have been quicker on the trigger, but this is just what we're demonstrating here: good versus bad, highlighting the morality of the birth chart is what I assume they're doing here. And like I said, we're only going through the ascendants, but Jupiter ascending, Pisces, no, the sun. Oh, so they're saying the sun could either be Pisces or Sagittarius. Either, if I'm reading that right. There's two suns on the right there, but Pisces, Sagittarius, safer bet. We'll just say safer bet for a cop. And Mercury. They've got Mercury. See how, they're repeating this. They're on the chart on the right, they're saying either ascendant, Sun, and Jupiter would be good on the... Sorry, Mercury, Sun, and Jupiter would be good on the ascendant. And Sun, Jupiter, Mercury would also be good on the...
Sag, yeah.
On the, what's it called? The highest point of the day. Your
Yeah.
MC. Up at the top of your chart. So
Yeah,
either
mid.
place, midhaven. Either of those would be good for the cop. On the left, they're showing Jupiter descending, falling in its fall. Whereas on the right, Jupiter's ascending. So there we go.
I'll read the article real quick. It's not a long one. According to astrology, the science of natal influence, 60 and perhaps 65% of active members of the police department, irrespective of rank, are better qualified to fill with more efficiency other occupations, trades, professions, or callings at which they would prove a greater success and of more benefit to society. No better evidence could be desired that present methods of selecting men for police service need reforming than is furnished by the current revelations of incompetency and worse throughout the ranks of the New York police force. And again, I apologize. It can be hard to see some of this, so I'm just going to have to fill in the blanks. The conviction cannot be escaped that the civil service requirements neglect the most important qualifications. Policemen worthy of their trust are, like poets, born, not made. Absolute respect for the law, which it is their duty to enforce, constitutional honesty to make them incapable of profiting materially by their exceptional opportunities, and ready wits as well as bravery and perfunctory understanding of their duties are essential requirements. These unfits may or may not be so aware of this fact as is the public at large, but it can be clearly proven and demonstrated, nevertheless, by a simple study of the birth data of each member of the force, and it can be proven just which captains, lieutenants, and patrolmen would do better at mending old shoes, and which of more benefit to the community at large, wielding a pick and handling a shovel, and so on. If a man is physically powerful, swift of limb, keen of sight, intellect, well educated, honest, sober, and faithful, because all these qualities are required by the Civil Service Commission. But yeah,
Wow.
so that's the 1800s. So
that's amazing. That was a great segment, guys.
Pretty cut and dry, I think.
Bravo.
Awesome.
Right.
But yeah, so you can see that was just a taste. I have a few about politicians and presidents, but that was the easiest one for me to find.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy, what we got here? Sorry.
Oh, you mentioned the round Hebrew calendar, and this is probably not it, but just had that pulled up just in case it was.
Okay.
In the discussion of the 13th.
Uh,
Didn't
mean to cut you off, Ben. What were you saying?
No problem. I was just saying that it would be something that you would be better suited at going through. But there's books written on the subject. I'm sure you probably have some in your store where they talk about the astrological significance of world leaders and so on.
Yeah. Occupations, that's a big one. That used to be, you go to school and you get your you do that little test, and they tell you what you should be when you grow up. They used to do that all the time in school. You just put in your birthday, and they tell you what you'd be good at. It's not determinism. It's not you're stuck with this. It's what you'd be best with. And I can assure you they used to do this in ancient times. Jimmy, you're good to hop off. Get out of here, dude. Just get out of here. Just sitting there.
Occupation comes from a cult. It's the same root.
Jimmy, just sit down 1 more hour, and you'll be good to go.
Well, the news is red.
The news is red.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Some very exciting plans that we've got. The doctor's got for the channel. Spencer's lined up in the agricultural sector, and just all sorts of really interesting ideas that we've got cooking. And so it's just a great time to jump on the Patreon. We've been couple of the videos, couple of the chats has been making YouTube a little nervous here and there. So there's been a little bit of that pressure to not talk about certain things. So this is a place, as the Library of Alexandria burns, this is this is safe. This is behind walls of coquina, walls of stone, and it's protected. So, for $5 a month, you can have the entire catalog ad-free. All of the videos that may be removed will stay here forever. It's $555. It's $555 a month, which is the added energy of geometric power.
Every time you pay us your shekels, you're getting blessed via angel numbers. Your preferred angel number. Tip, donate, whatever you want, but it has to be an angel number, guys. We will return donations that are not numbered out in consecutive 7s or 3s or 4s or whatever. Just kidding. Spend whatever you want.
No, but yeah, I mean, it's a monthly energy evoking blessing that you can be giving to build something bigger, more exciting. We've got a lot of plans, a lot of options. Also having the ad free is really nice if you're listening while you're doing things with your hands. So yeah, check it out.
Doing chicks. If you're listening to the video while you're doing mad chicks, and your hands are just full, Patreon's the place to go.
That's right. You don't want an ad ruining the mood like that. Especially Ben, your videos, I find them fascinating and very calm and peaceful. You've got a nice soothing tone to your voice. And it's just fascinating reading the old syntax, the old verbiage of the past in some of these beautiful old 1800s articles. And it lulls me into a different place. And then
lots of people tell me I put them to sleep.
Dude, Jimmy, same.
It's nice,
high praise.
I used
to
go to
waking
sleep.
up. It's
my number one comment. Like,
praise.
I listen to your long videos and I fall asleep.
Dude, it's soothing.
I did it for a year.
There's a lot of videos out there, a lot of social media that's like, hey, we found this article, and did you know this? And they're just screaming at you, and it's horrible. It's so distracting from the information that they're presenting, but you just allow it to gently flow, and so you can be woken up more than put to sleep, I think, on some fascinating stuff.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoy it. Thank you.
My point is, when I'm listening, I'm there, and then the ad will just rip into that with loud, people screaming, and you know how they are. They're like a
Black
electric
trans.
shock. Yeah.
Yep. Nutella commercial, whatever.
Yeah. Chicken.
Nutella people for a Nutella commercial.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sweets. Yeah. Degeneracy. It's usually like a pharmaceutical ad. It's like, oh, are you feeling not numbed enough? Then have some poison. It's usually just horrible stuff. So you get rid of the ads when you jump in and you join the Florida Department of Magic, which is what it is officially, right? Longo, that's it is the official, the only and official Department of Magic in
F
Florida.
Dom.
I got to get some better thumbnails for those, but I mean,
Good.
we're building we're building it up to be even more than what it is. So join the department.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. I agree with that.
Sign up, y'all. Do whatever you want.
Thanks, Jimmy. I hopefully I can line up some ideas and work for you in the near future, my buddy.
Oh, very exciting. Some
Yeah,
delicious fruity work.
Yeah. We're gonna start moving some Florida produce like we should have been all along.
Yeah, we've
Very
got
nice.
some interesting stuff in the works behind the scenes, guys. Stay tuned. Lots of stuff. We may be working on filling other senses that you may have as a human, right? You look at the screen. Well, soon Dr. Longo and Co. are going to be in your ears. Soon
Yeah.
Dr. Longo and Co. will be in your mouth, dripping down your lips.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
We're talking
Official fruit.
We're talking fruit industry, people. We're getting fruit to the people. Okay.
Mm-hmm. From the earth, from the ground, from the Florida soil,
Yep.
into the mouths of the people.
Florida
Orange
fruit.
man, good. Orange man, good.
That's right. Oranges. So there's that lot of on-site, in-person things that we want to look
oh
at
man.
making.
Speaking of zodiacs and leaders and oranges and Jupiterian type characters, Trump is a perfect example.
Someone said that earlier. Yeah, I saw that in the chat.
Orange man bad. Yeah, when I did that radio show with my Danish friend, you know, he's taking a break from anything online related. God bless him. But we did a whole breakdown on Orange Man Bad and did a whole look into his astrology, Trump's astrology, and it like almost matched very similarly to what we were just talking about there, and not to mention his orange skin, you know,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
Jupiter nod with the orange glowing tan skin,
Yes.
the Floridian. But yeah, anyways, random tangent there. But
No, tangerine or
Mm,
tangent.
hey.
Okay, I know what you mean.
There it is.
I'll take that as I'll tap in right there. Let's just talk about Donald Trump, guys. Orange man bad? No. Orange man good. Okay. Let's just think about this. Donald Trump, and I'm gonna put a video out about this. You guys are getting a sneak peek here. Donald Trump is a ancient Aryan Florida Indian chieftain. He is an ancient Aryan chieftain. Florida giant, whatever you want to call him, he is it.
Rurik.
Number one.
You know him and Blavatsky are related?
Hang on. Let me get this spiel out.
Sorry.
Real quick.
Go
Put a
ahead.
pin in
good.
that.
Yeah. For real.
Whoa.
We'll get back to that. Number one. He, like his ancestors, like his Aryan chieftain ancestors who roamed over Eurasia, hacking the heads off of 5'5" fucking Italian losers. Him and his ancient bloodlines both used tanner. His ancient Aryan, or I shouldn't say that word so much. His ancient
Nordic.
Indo-European, which is the same identical meaning, so you can't touch me, YouTube. That's the technical definition right there. That is Indo-European is Aryan, same thing. Okay, I'm in. Now, he, like his ancestors, covers his skin with what? Red ochre.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's what I'm trying to find right now.
Donald Trump's tanner. Oh, it's so weird. Why is he so orange? That's so hot. Can you believe he tans his face like that? Huh? Okay. There's a little bit more to this, guys.
Red ochre.
And yes, I'm being semi-ironic here. Iron, red ochre, iron in the blood, iron
Red
in the
man.
clay, iron. This is the red Iron Man. Now this is the red ochre body paint that his ancestors used, and he is using some rendition of today.
No way.
Now, just as the ancient chiefs of Florida, tall, giant chiefs of Florida, congregated in the morning and sipped their Yopon Holly ceremonial black drink, their black brew, heavily caffeinated, black, dark, ritualistic brew that the Florida natives would use every day, every single day. Some tribes only the chiefs, some tribes only the men, some tribes everyone. Donald Trump is a Coca-Cola addict. Donald Trump is obsessed with Coca-Cola. He drank Coke for years until he was made by his doctors made him switch to Diet Coke, as if that's any better. But that's not the conversation we're having right now. It's not, oh, is it good for you? Is it not? Oh, I'm so triggered. Coca-Cola, GMO'd corn syrup. Oh my God. No. Chill out for a sec. It's black drink. Why is it still black? They could color that stuff anything they wanted to nowadays. Why is it still black? Why is it so heavily caffeinated? Why does Trump drink so much of it every day? He is thriving off of this caffeinated emperor mindset, just as his ancient predecessors did in the land that he inhabits and his bloodline ancestors in Eurasia. Both of them largely engaging in the similar type of behavior. Now, this man is churning vril day to day. He's surrounded by hot, beautiful women. His wife is smoking hot. Okay, even for 60, whatever she is, smoking. He has smoking hot. His lawyer is smoking hot. His secretary is smoking hot. Whatever. People always say like, oh, what comforts me? I like a world leader that obviously fawns, is obsessed with beautiful women. Obsessed. Best case scenario is having a politician who's just chasing chicks the whole time. Best case scenario. Trust me. You don't want some pervert that's into anything other than hot chicks. You don't want that guy in office.
The latter is pretty rough. Yeah.
It sounds so simple-minded. Trust me, guys. What is simple is smart. What is simple is wise. What is simple is that simple. He loves beauty. This is not just about the women. He loves beauty. Look at his houses. They are decked in gold. The arches, the artwork, the paintings, the lamps, everything. They don't tolerate meager, ugly interior design. They don't tolerate this New Yorker modernist, design. They don't tolerate this Podesta home decor. Tony Podesta Epstein home decor. Okay, no. This guy he's a red-blooded American that likes salt, sugar, and smoking hot chicks. What more can you ask for?
Okay.
In a president. Now, there's more that I have there is he doesn't drink alcohol. The chiefs of Florida, the natives, the giants of America, did not drink alcohol. They had no alcohol. They smoked tobacco.
Well, and you know what's funny is they drink a lot of the black drink, but they'd always make themselves puke. They'd never allow their body to digest it.
Whoa.
Well, that's the scientific name for the black drink. The Yopon Holly is Ilex vomitoria.
Yeah.
So it made you throw up.
Yep.
Reminds me of peyote.
Well, and like I touched on slightly, if you go deep enough into Trump, you'll get to the empire of Rus and the Russ and the Rusin and the King Rurik. And King Rurik's family was wiped out and covered up by the Romanovs. And you can trace a lot of this, quote, Tartaria stuff to the Rurik class. And what does Rurik Rus mean? It means the men who row. And it connects with the Finns. It's deep. Constantinople, so Trump's lineage is basically Phoenician. It's essentially the same kind of verbiage. And King Rurik was famous for uniting the Finns and the Swedes and all of the Norwegians together against a kind of common enemy. which is kind of what Trump is doing. He's kind of following that same. He's filling the same shoes. For anybody interested, I would definitely do a dive into King Rurik. It's an incredible story that nobody even knows about.
And when the Rus rode here from Europe to America, their skin was light, their hair was blonde, their eyes were blue.
Mhm.
Did they rub red ochre on that they got from the rock onto their skin as a sunscreen? I've been trying to search up pictures of it for ages. Can't find anything.
Oh yeah, they
about Nordic people.
The Egyptians. Oh yeah, the Egyptians tell stories of. I mean the all the stories of these these tall white men that came on boats
from the north
with serpents. They called them serpents. They rode on serpents because all of the Phoenician style ships had the dragon's head.
Winged serpents. Yep.
Correct.
Dragon boat.
The dragon boat, and it wasn't a boat that they were familiar with, and they were far more symbolical in their language than we give them credit for. So people think that it was like some, when they talk about the serpent priests. Anyways, Kukulkan, Khan, all of these kind of people, the Egyptians tell the same story, that they were pale white-skinned men, but they called them the red men.
Eric the Red.
Yeah, let's just look at, according to the Bach Saga, the very first foray, the very first departure of white people from the North Pole was what we refer to as the Etruscan civilization. And what Ben was just referring to was the Rus. The Rus Vikings is where we get the word Russia. It's where we get, Kiev was founded by the Rus, if I'm not mistaken. Down into
the Rurik
Ukraine.
badge, the Rurik family crest is the trident.
And the Rus of Russia, the Rose, the War of the Roses in England for the kind of almost fighting over the throne to Britain. This all goes back to Etruscans, the Et Rus Khan. So according to the Bach Saga, Et is its own word, important word. Rus is its own word, important word, and then Khan, of course, is its own important word. Canaanite.
This is why
Khan,
This is why we talked about me and you long ago in one of our chats, we talked about the Etruscans and how important it was to understand, just like the Bach Saga says, before the fall, the vapor canopy or whatever it was that started off the ice age, kicked off the ice age, all man was one skin tone, right? And that after this separation, that's why the Etruscan connection is so important, because you have the Finnic root in the language, but people get thrown off because Etruscans not only were shown as being pale or red-skinned, but they were also black-skinned. They were both.
Yes.
And they were both defined as, just like I stated, under the title of Rus, the men who row. Remember, Longo, we talked about this. The history of Switzerland describes the exact same thing, that the rowers and the astrologers were both Etruscans, but one was, from a northern latitude and had pale skin and had to wear ochre, and the other was living in equatorial areas, and they were more suited to being in the sunlight. So they were darker skinned.
Yes.
They had more melanin, but these are the same people. They had the same mythology. They had the same language. When you break down the Etruscan language, which for hundreds of years had been buried by Rome as we know it today, and that's because it connects us with these Rus and the Finnic connection as well.
Yes.
But we should do a whole nother video on that sometime.
What Ben's referring to is, if you go look at any of the cultures in the Mediterranean,
perfect example right here.
They always tell you LOGO, the Greeks, or sorry, the Romans. Well, the Romans came from the Greeks, and the Greeks came from the blah, blah, blah. It always goes back to the Etruscan. Everything in the Mediterranean goes back to the Etruscans. They're the ones who first introduced this Phoenician-style alphabet to these other peoples.
Mm-hmm.
Up until then, it was restricted to the North Pole. In my opinion, it was runes, and the runes became the Latin alphabet and the Phoenician alphabet after it was exported,
Mm-hmm.
franchised to.
And it follows the zodiac. It's just a runic zodiac script that's obviously most elegantly represented from a northern latitude. So it seems to be the most precise. You would have to be in a high northern latitude, 60 degrees ish.
So what we're seeing here is a painting on a wall or a ceiling, an Etruscan painting, and what we're seeing is two races of men standing side by side. And there's some paintings that show this even better, and I'll go find another one, but what you're seeing is clearly a blonde, white, Nordic type of man, and darker skinned, curlier headed, brown haired, brown eyed, brown skinned people.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to see here that it's not that simple, because you're going to see an intermediate coloring in Etruscan, and when you go look at Egyptian art too, you see primarily 3 skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, when they describe the Libyan, the Nubian. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny because you look at the kind of Israelite description that's often been a bit of a misnomer in the last 200 years or so, but it was described much like what you were showing. Tight curls, darker skin. And of course the kind of runic, what they would call block Hebrew, although it's much more runic than it is anything else.
So guys, I've got this picture here that shows exactly what we're talking about. You're going to see, I just showed you darker skin, darker hair, lighter skin.
Yep.
Right next to each other. Well, what else do we find in Etruscan art? Hang on.
Oh shit.
Dark hair.
Tweeners.
Dark hair.
Light skin.
Olive skin. And then blonde hair, red skin.
Whoa, nice.
They clearly have a light skin tone available to them. Why are they depicting this guy red?
Don't we have actresses that look like that sing?
Well, I'll tell you. This man is from the North Pole. He is not suited for life in the Mediterranean. His skin is too pink. His skin is too pale. And I'm assuming, and I have lots of evidence to suggest, that he is covering, and his fellow family people with that skin tone are covering themselves in red ochre paint. We know this for a fact. I'm just assuming that's what the painting is showing, because we have a light skin tone, dark
It's
hair.
just like, we'll have to do a show on braids too. I know you've talked about this before, but the correlation here with the Norse and the more equatorial climates, especially, what people would call black skinned. The braids is a huge nod, just like the language and many other things. But the commerce, the maritime commerce is the big connection, right? Again, how we talked about the Gulf Stream, the Baltic lands connecting with the shared language between the Gulf of Mexico, because even the Aztecs say the same story, that they were trading with the Baltic and with what is called Italy now, but was Etruria, which Etruria was also known as Mexico. And that the Aztecs were, quote, half-breeds, Etruscan half-breeds is what they were called.
Ben, what was that far northern city? I don't know if there was a Phoenician trade route. I've been trying to figure this out. You spoke about it a long time ago. I believe it was
Gotland.
LONGO. Yes, that's it. Gotland. Okay. And who inhabited Gotland?
Well, it was a trading post but it was Phoenician.
Yeah, the people of the
Okay.
goats. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly.
You know,
Okay.
why did the word God get the word God? Why does God describe something higher than? Why is God used for good? The God, gods, gotcha, right? Why is God goat? God, goat. So many languages, same word. Now, this all comes from a story out of Finland. When a handful of blonde, Nordic people left the Ice Age, left the North Pole during the Ice Age, and went out to the rest of the world. When they were received in countries that no white man had ever been before, with no blonde man, with no bearded man had ever gone before, when they were received by the natives there, they likened them to goats. Why? Because these were the people of the goat. They identified with the goat. The goat was their supreme kind of logo, crest. But then also why? Because they had beards like a goat. Let me look this up. Goat,
Whoa.
beard,
Yeah. So
blonde.
Gotland,
Yeah, I remember that.
Gotland is really important, and it shows that the Baltic was tropical, which is really important because this connects it again with the story of um, the pre-Ice Age time. And not only that, it was considered the horde of the Vikings, but really it was a Phoenician trading post. And as me and Longo have talked about quite endlessly, the Gulf Stream kept a channel open between the Baltic and the Gulf of Mexico. So trade was continuing, language, culture, all these things. It was almost unbroken after this event. And Gotland was a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. There's Gothenburg, Gotland. There's a couple different Goths around Northern Europe, but
Gotham City.
back.
Batman.
Ooh, there's a good one. To the point about the beards, what is synonymous with gods? What do gods have that mortals, may have, but gods always do? Beards.
Mm-hmm.
It's the beards. They're always screaming this to us through the art, through the ancient folklore. The beard. The Bach saga is big on beards. This is the billy goat, the goatee, and got comes from goat because these people, if you had never seen a white person before with light skin, blonde hair, wispy, thin hair, and you saw this person, and you had only ever seen something like that in the shape of a goat with the flowy, wispy, blonde hair, you might attribute those people to the goat, and especially if they themselves worship the goat. Their
Exactly.
whole mythology is based off the goat.
And they had goat helmets. Almost all of the helmets in this time period had horns. That was like, so of course that was a big part of it too. I agree. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Right.
the mythological worship of Cernunnos, which he's depicted with antlers a lot, but it goes back to the goat as well. And this is we talked about this on your show before, but yeah, there you got the crescent and the moon, and there's so much there to dive into with Cernunnos, but the Baphomet, the goat head, but yeah, it's
Right.
deep.
Gothic cathedrals.
And also,
Gotland, Gothic.
goat, it's believed that God created mankind. Well, according to the Bach saga, mankind comes from the goat. Mankind, according to the Bach saga, according to Finnish mythology, literally was birthed by a mother goat. Now that sounds ridiculous, right? That sounds
Mother goat.
very ridiculous. Well, let's just
Is it?
dissect it real quick. The goat, what is the universal milk for all mammals? Goat's milk. You cannot give all animals cow's milk. You cannot give all animals cat's milk. It might be dangerous. You might kill some animals having the wrong type of milk. Goat's milk, however, look it up. Goat's milk is the universal milk. Let's look it up. Universal
Yeah.
milk.
It is. I raised Nigerian dwarfs for almost a decade. And when you dive into why baby goats are called kids and the correlation between
Yep.
baby children and baby goats, it's pretty funny.
It's the best thing for a baby that doesn't have access to breast milk. It's goat milk.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
and it avoids a lot of the lactose issues that you get in cow's milk. That's the big one because remember the majority of the world is lactose intolerant,
Yes.
but the majority of the world can't have goat's milk.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Camel milk also is very similar to goat milk. It's almost universal.
So, what's it called? What is the child of a goat called? A kid.
Mhm.
A kid. It's not a cub. It's not a lamb. It's not a hatchling. It's a kid.
Yeah.
We're kids. Children.
That's
We are
why they
all
called him that. Yeah.
remembering
Kide
this.
comes from kide, and they said this because baby goats were the most like baby children, and they played the same. They could be best
Mhm.
friends.
And goats sound like humans. So number one, Capricorn rules comedy, laughter, to be capricious, to satire. Saturn's
Mhm.
the goat, the Baphomet. Capricorn.
Ooh. Sounds like you got a bit of some goat action out in the street tonight.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Oh, jeez. So, I'm gonna look up if there's any active situations going on in Lakeworth.
Fucking whore. Shut up, fucking tramp. Jeez Louise. Anyway, so
What just happened?
I raised goats for a very long time and birthed many.
Dealt with.
And let me tell you what, they are the most fun farm animal. You know, I've had everything you can imagine, chickens and geese and sheep and his Capricorn reference there was huge because they do laugh. They do mimic. Goats are capable of mimic. They'd copy my dogs. They would bark. They'd try to copy my cats. It's pretty interesting. You know, you look at like goats kind of get a weird name, you know, or weird marking, I suppose, because you know the Baphomet and all the goat's head and all that stuff. But you actually raise them and you learn to love them. Goats piss in their own mouth. They sure do. They piss on themselves.
They can self suck too. That's the big thing in the
Box saga.
in the box saga. God had to.
Whoa.
Now don't listen. If we've got any Christians out there,
Escalated quickly.
don't hang me.
Hey,
There's
there's,
a
a lady
video
in the
on it.
comment section loving what you're about to say right now.
So
There's a video on it. It explains everything.
God, this is some kind of philosophy, mythology. You know, we're gonna stretch it here a little bit, but bear with me. You've got, you know, God created man. Creation is inherently a sexual act. You know, to be fruitful, God said to be fruitful. Fruit, you know, fruit is sex, sexuality, creations, the creative force. Okay.
Low hanging fruit, ball sack, yeah.
So God is a God of sexual creation. He has to be by nature. Now, God, however you guys out there theorize God, doesn't matter. God had to reproduce with himself, in theory, to create anything out of thin air. Now, you know, yes, God is capable of all things. And like I said, I'm not conflicting with anyone's, you know, idea of God out there. But think about it. One God, no wife, right? It has to be self-procreative. God is self-procreative. And what is kind of the symbol of the universe is the snail, not the snail. The snail taking its own tail in its mouth, guys. The snake taking its own tail in its mouth.
Yeah. The
Ouroboros.
The Ouroboros. You will very rarely see a snake actually doing that.
Hmm.
What you will see, however, is goats doing that. Ouroborosing, whatever you want to say. Goats can self-suck. Now that might seem weird to you guys, but symbolically, alchemically, this means a whole lot. And it might sound silly. It's hilarious. It's hilarious to me too. But it also matters to me, and I want you guys to know. The Ouroboros indicates the goat, if any animal. The goat is actually capable of that and does it regularly. And that played a large role in the Bach saga. Now, you guys were showing some great stuff while I was talking with the goat from Gotland. Well, that was a different Gotland. That was... What tunnel was that?
CERN.
Yeah, the Gothard tunnel
Gothard.
in
There you go.
Switzerland.
Gothard, that's goat too.
Got hard.
Yep,
as well,
goth is
so-
goth comes from goat too, guys.
Gothard, the world's longest and deepest tunnel.
Well, and like we mentioned earlier, CERN
Mm.
comes from Cernunnos, and Cernunnos is just the goat. It's just it's like a fertility god. And what is that? It's the ring. It's the Ouroboros. It's the monad. Regenerative principle. It's all the same symbolism, really.
Guys, I want to show you something interesting here. I would like to introduce you to the true king of the world, the true king of England and Britain, and the universe as far as I'm concerned. William Windsor. William Windsor the First, Billy, as he's known, a cashmere goat, is descended from the same royal blood. Why would they ever use that word, royal bloodline, with an animal? But was not selected from the wild population. He was born in Whipsnade Zoo. He was presented to the regiment by Queen Elizabeth II in 2001. What are we referring to here? Did you guys know that the royal family actually is outranked? They actually take their orders. They show reverence. They kneel. They bow to the royal goat. How many of you guys have heard this? I didn't hear this until like a couple months ago.
I have not,
Yeah,
and
me too.
this is not Baphomet related with later perverted, corrupted, inverted
He makes money.
ideologies and symbology.
He makes money.
The goat has a bank account.
Oh,
Shit, that's
he gets
right. Yeah,
paid.
that's right. Yep, I do. I have seen that.
Wow.
So this
Whoa.
is the royal goat. I'm sure they switch this guy out every so often, but there's a royal bloodline that supersedes the king and queen of England.
Is there a trust attached to this goat, like an estate, like a royal trust attached to this thing?
I do not know, but you know
We
you've
found
got
the gold, boys. We
you've
found
got
the gold.
your white pope, your gray pope, your black pope. Well, you've got your goat pope, and he's the top. Okay. People say that the Pope's hat is to cover rabbit's ears. No. Goat's horns. People. Goat horns. There we go. See? Just kidding. It's probably a rabbit. Like the South Park joke. But regardless, it's the goats, guys. Wake up. It's the goats. Follow the beards. Follow the goats.
Well, there's a reason why the goat blood was sacred. I mean, all the blood rituals were generally done with goats. It was the most symbolic and potent example of the regenerative principle.
Still today, in some areas of the world, right? Goat sacrifice is quite common. Africa, Middle East.
Well, when the lodestone would lose its power, remember people heard voices through the stone. The only blood that would re-energize the stone, King Arthur, Sword of the Stone, was goat's blood. And you know what is blood? It's just iron. Of course, iron is going to energize the magnetic stone. It's very multi-layered. We could go 4-dimensional with blood on an energetic level. But yeah, the symbolical nature of the goat is really, really important.
Your work on lodestone, the phenomena of lodestones, magnetic rock, and in articles that you found from the 1800s and stuff like that is incredible. The stories of some of these ships that were metal ships that were magnetically being drawn towards great mountains of magnetic rock.
Yeah, I mean, there's
fascinating.
There are a lot of
makes so much sense.
Ships that navigated in the northern latitudes that never used any metals at all, even when they had advanced metallurgy. They found ships in New York. They found ships in the Gulf of Mexico. They found ships in Norway, basically all over the world, where they have this really incredible, intricate way of latticing the wood together, and they never used a single piece of metal. Now, some people say it was because it would interfere with the compass. Remember, the Phoenicians were the first ones to use the compass. In fact, it was sacred to them, and that's where the highest order, or what they called a captain of today, he was given the rank of Q. But anyways, people, modern day historians will say, oh, they went through all this extra work because it's a lot more work to tie these ocean worthy boats together without using any metal. Oh, it's because it interfered with the magnetism of the needle. Well, that's not true actually at all. You just see that the reality is that they talked quite openly that there were parts of the ocean in the north that were very dangerous, and magnetism, I think, had a lot to do with that. These stories of the magnetic mountain sucking in ships from hundreds of miles away, maybe not hundreds, but 100 miles away or so.
So
go ahead.
So that makes me think of, like, a lot of people, when you think about satellites, a lot of people think of ionic propulsion or electrostatic propulsion, and the dirigibles, to me, looking up, were generally, utilizing electrostatic propulsion, utilizing the ionosphere. And then when you really look at the magnetic, field theory of, say, a flat Earth cosmology, you're going to see more of a flower of life mandala, and some of these satellites are moving in those patterns. And I'm wondering, over a more electric salt body of water, wouldn't you be able to travel via these same, electromagnetic fields, via boat on the ocean? I would think that they would be able to travel via the stars, like unassisted naturally, electromagnetically. Do you know, like that?
Well, water is a great conduit for electricity, right?
Absolutely. That's why all castles, which castle is just a circuit. Remember, these giant cities were called circuit cities or circuits. The terminology with the motherboards, circuit boards, computers. Again, going way back in my archive, I did a deep dive on this gentleman who worked for Packard Bell, and he was the first part of the systems working on quantitative mathematics and early chip development. And he said, quote, "We learned everything we needed to learn from studying the circuit cities of the Chinese Empire." And he was speaking specifically of what's the city that Trump visited? I always forget the name of it. The Forbidden City or something like that.
Yo Mama Yo Mama House
in Peking,
city in China.
Yeah. Anyways, so
Peking,
that's what he's
Peking True Yo Mama bedroom.
But yeah, the same thing goes with anything. The water is the ground, and that's the easiest way to transport large amounts of current. That's why it's called current. It's just like money, like you were saying earlier. It's the same. It's energy transfer.
Were you
But
about to say the moat of a castle is for energetic purposes?
Cooling.
Yeah, gates and towers. Remember, people get too caught up in thinking of defensive, but these things were originally designed to be a machine.
Wow.
Yeah, they're
They
cooling
weren't
cooling
designed-
mechanisms, liquid cooled structures.
Correct. And here, can I share my screen really quick?
Mm-hmm.
Ben, while you're on this, I want to throw my kind of theory that I've been rambling about in my truck for a couple months now on that.
I'll just read this really quick here and kind of show an electrical sketch. I made friends with this gentleman. He goes by Kill Switch. He's a lineman, and his electrical knowledge is insane. He blows my mind all the time. But anyways, this is a definition. This is a dictionary. This is an old Hebrew dictionary from the 1800s, 1820s. And if you look here, it says Kublai is Kabbalist. So the Kabbalah or the Kabbalists are just masters of magnetism, right?
Yeah.
And nano, anon, these myriads of words and circuit cities. And remember, Kublai Khan built the great city there that I'm spacing the name of in Peking, China. But if you look at this is a perfect representation, and he breaks it down really nicely here. So basically, he says Xanadu Palace gives us a picture: 4 walls, 6 towers, per 2 gates, east and west, 1 gate north and south. Which, if you look at old structures, they're always orientated north, south, east, west.
So there's electroculture.
And how discrete components like a process switch function with a circuit. They probably tapped atmospheric potential, like you were mentioning, positive to the water, which is the ground, and the stabilizing transient electricity, creating natural springs. So these castles, these giant forts, this is what they were. They were large mechanisms.
You literally just described how everybody is utilizing electroculture. The Fertile Current on Instagram utilizes exactly what you just described with their tactics under the beds, north to south, and
grounding.
Yeah,
where their antennas are located, their antenna locations. The book that they use matches what you just described from an old world structure.
Yeah, I have articles too about electroculture in the 1800s. They were using copper rods that were 100 feet tall, and they were growing.
Good.
They were growing watermelons that were 100 pounds.
God damn. Hang on. Well, you heard it here, folks. In honor of Black History Month, we're going to be pumping out electroculture giant 100-pound watermelons.
Boom.
I'm sure some people have seen some of those images floating around with giant fruit, giant pumpkins.
We can do it again, and we will.
We will.
First thing is the atmospheric energy was a lot higher. Even just 200 years ago, they had this thing called St. Elmo's fire. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
It was cold flame, cold fire. Ships that were sailing against north and south, their masts would glow purple with this glowing flame that was cool to the touch.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's the same thing for those wondering it. This is not like made up or time no more. This is if you go high enough today and stick your finger out under the right conditions, you'll find you'll see voltage coming off of your fingertips. You'll see the ether scraping against your fingers.
Yeah, it's friction, isn't it? Isn't it friction?
Voltage. And all Ben is talking about is that effect being more permanent, more present across the board.
Yeah.
Not just under certain conditions, which does exist today.
So the electrostatic gradient, if you will, was a lot more charged.
Correct. And the Aurora Borealis was seen in Florida in the 1800s.
So
a lot. When was the last time in our lifetime you saw the Aurora Borealis in Florida?
Never in my life, but I may have missed it.
So, yeah. Look at type in St. Elmo's fire, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Hey, Ben.
It's up there.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Oh, wow.
You won't find pictures because here you go. This is a good representation. Ships all the time, especially in the northern latitudes,
Whoa.
their masts would glow with this plasma purple fire. And during snowstorms, fence posts would do the same thing. Excuse me.
What it is.
But yeah, so very correlative there to what you were talking about. That was a long roundabout to tying in with Zeppelins because, as me and Longo have talked about, the radium water plays a big role. Yeah, the ocean is full of radium. So that's a big part of it too, is these ocean-going vessels. Castles would do this. Temples, bells. This is why bells were removed. This is what Longo talked about when a lot of churches, their bells were removed in the 1800s.
And destroyed.
The bell has a lot to do with this resonance again, which with quartz and the right atmospheric conditions and good spring water, especially radium water, you can really get a powerful circuit going. That's why a cathedral is called a cathedral. It's just a cathode, and you're dealing with underground springs. Every cathedral is built on an underground spring, every single one. And that's why the organ, most powerful cathedrals have an organ or some kind of bell. It's either an organ or a bell, or it's both, because the resonance, using the music to provide the resonance and the right atmospheric conditions, fill the whole thing with people. You have the mixture of an powerful cathode that would be this magical healing device. But yeah.
Here we're looking at Colonial Dorchester in South Carolina. This is an old bell tower in the middle of nowhere. And this thing is substantial. It looks like an ancient monastery, or just ancient, temple out in the jungle.
And I bet you it goes 20, 30 feet below ground.
It just might. It was hard to tell. But Bell Tower of St. George's. Let's look at what it used to look like. This is well within what used to be known as La Florida. Remember, all of the North American continent was known as La Florida.
Yep.
For a short while. And Bell Tower of St. George's, angry with the Anglican Church, the Puritan pilgrims left England in 1620. Their descendants, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the story. Dorchester. Village founders and other religious dissenters were even taxed to support St. George's. So we see what the building looked like back there.
Yeah, see, even in the drawing, there's probably an extra 20 feet or a whole story of that bell tower.
Yes. Looks like it. Good point. Let me switch up.
Not only is the top missing, but you're missing
completely.
a whole story below that.
Yes, you're 100% right. I never even noticed that. So the door right there that looks like the ground level is clearly not the ground level when we go here. There's three. Holy shit. There's three stories. There's three stories in the quadrangular or square portion of the building. There's three stories.
Yeah, every major church, there's at least one basement level, if not two or three.
Look at that, guys. We're looking right there at the top. You see it shifts to like a...
Yeah, that's where the dome would be.
Hexagonal. The hexagonal tower starts there.
Steeple.
The steeple starts on a hexagonal foundation on top of the square foundation. Make sense? So we have a square building. The footprint of this building is square. Then when we go up, the footprint of the third story, or it's actually the fourth story, is hexagonal. So we're going to go back to the drawing of what it used to look like and see the hexagonal part starts on the third story.
Yeah, you're missing at least 10 feet, 12 feet.
An entire story, an entire doorway is missing there. And we're only seeing the top two stories, then the hexagonal portion beginning. You see this?
Yeah, and that's where the bell would have been were the hexagonal, which you find very often the hexagon connected with bell structures.
Mm-hmm. This place was beautiful too.
And is it true that sometimes these bells could create frequencies that would heal every human and
Yeah, all
like
resonance,
everyone?
because I mean, resonance, affects crystals a lot. And what's the human body? The human body is just a big crystal. So,
Right.
yeah, this is Longo had originally mentioned that we were going to talk about the Rockwall, Texas, and I had done a bunch of material leading up to that idea that a lot of these ancient walls, they were either using quartz cement or the whole wall was built out of quartz, and that just like we talked about with the St. Elmo's fire, that these walls ran along waterways and that they were essentially like electric fences. They were, like I mentioned earlier, they were the voltage source and the kind of stabilizing transient current of the electrical grid. But yeah, that's pretty cool that you had an old image of it, because you can blatantly see you're missing at least 12 feet, I'd guess, of that structure.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
And I bet you that church was there for a long time, but only a small fraction of it was sticking above ground, so they just got rid of it and buried the rest.
Dude, I don't know. That was some of the most compelling mud flood evidence I've ever heard or seen. That Ben just pointed out there was we're missing an entire story on this building, guys.
Dude,
the first time
where you been, Longo?
The
first
biggest
time. Let me tell you a story real quick. Sorry. First time I went to Salt Lake City. For those who don't know, my wife's Mormon. The temple in Salt Lake. The first time I went there and saw it, they were doing renovations, and they had 25 feet of the bottom floor cut away, and you could see the foundation just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh,
amazing!
And this is all. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. And when I was a kid, the city I live outside of Portland, we took tours of the underground here in middle school, and
wow.
There were 3 stories underground where everything just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I mean, isn't that how Waldendorf Tower was? As above, so below. Don't you generally meet those standards with any electromagnetic structure where positive meets negative at the Earth?
Yeah, but fundamentally what I'm saying is that this is everywhere. I mean, Longo showed enough stuff in Florida that, like these old hotels, Ponce de Leon, on and on, that they have huge basements, basements. And you're dealing with a culture, again, using Portland as an example, because that's the one that I've seen firsthand. It was a shipping town that was very poor. If it wasn't for the fact that it was on a river, there would be nothing for anybody to do here except log. But that was, 2 hours away, 10 hours by horse. So the reality is that if you think you're building all these brick masonry buildings at ground level, and we're talking about a dirt poor city, right? The foundations of my city were dirt poor. But when you look at these old buildings that have all been destroyed or burnt down, they go 3, if not 4 stories below ground. There would just not be financial prowess. And then you can make that correlation in every city, every single city. And another example is the best one that I use is the Philadelphia courthouse. This is a building in the late 1800s they were going to tear down. But then after looking at it, it was so large that it would bankrupt the entire country. It would bankrupt the entire United States to take apart this building. It was so large.
It's an incredible building, too.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it's insane. It's 700 rooms. Okay, and
it's stunning.
This is what we're building. Like when America's just getting its feet on the ground,
Yeah, and they really wanted to get rid of it. Right.
I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. They 100% invested a bunch of money, and they got a bunch of companies involved. Like, hey, we want to tear this down. Can you even imagine how that discussion would go?
They did it
The
This
top looks like
building
copper.
has 5 known of basements, and some people have said that there's actually 8.
Mm.
8 basement floors. So,
I mean,
anyways,
this is what you don't usually see in North America. This is, if you see the photos of the World's Fairs and stuff like that, they had buildings like these, and then they all went away.
I've been to all the major cities, most of them in America, and I've been to New York City, and I'm telling you what, that building right there, there is no building like it. When you're standing in front of it and when you go inside of it, the walls are like 10 feet thick. All the walls of this building.
Mhm.
This building was like meant to like survive a nuclear blast. To say that we built this in the time frame that we did is such an insanely preposterous thing.
Oh yeah.
Just from a financial perspective, let alone when you understand that not only does it take workmen to build the building, there's actually like tenfold labor required to mine, quarry, all the materials that go into a structure like this requires probably 100-fold labor
Mhm.
for each one of those men setting the stones and whatever. So it's just insane. And, it's a rabbit hole that if you haven't been down, you'll get lost in it. But this building just is like what I always recommend to people, especially when you go look at pictures of it, the first photographs of it. It's surrounded by wooden carriages because there were no automobiles and dirt roads.
There was.
It doesn't make any sense. We're building this all in dirt. In Philadelphia, it rains a shitload. So there's no way that in those conditions with that type of technology, you could build something like this during the wet season or the winter. So they were only building this during the summer months. Well, that would have taken 20 years or longer, probably 50 years.
Or longer.
Anyways,
I spent 2 years in that. I watched every John Levi and spent 2 years on that topic exactly before I even found Longo. And I had already been obsessed with trying to calculate how it could have been pulled off with all the numbers it's provided and, established in, founded in. And then you start, I was really trying to figure out what the hell Starfort was, what the purpose of it really was when I first found Longo. And the conversation tonight, when it comes to Starforts, Longo and I have talked about, them converting salt water into fresh, and they fill up the water structured. And Ben, what do you think about the water? So here's my theory with the water would fill these Starforts that people have begun to conclude. And then they would be transported through these like keyholes, and you have aqueducts. I believe a lot of the old tunnels are aqueducts, the old world tunnels that have been repurposed many times over thousands of years. But originally, I believe they were aqueducts connecting basically the circuit board as imagine it's like the circuit, the living waters. So this water controlled by tidal power is connected to the moon. The tides are connected to the moon. And so once you make it all the way inland from this water that's working mechanically off the tides, directly connected to the moon, which would be the cathode, you now make it all the way into the cities and into these structures that have cisterns. This water has flown there. And they utilize what? They utilize the anode. They utilize the electrostatic gradient. They utilize the positively charged ions with their antennas and their spires. And so what I'm seeing is constant flowing living water connected to the moon. Your anode and cathode are connected on a grid all around the world in every structure. And it's almost like in the air, like the satellites, they travel through these grids in the sky, through the electromagnetic fields, like Ken Wheeler will show you, for example, in field theory. And I believe those grids, like the Flower and Life mandalas and the ley lines, were these aqueducts and these tunnels in the old world systems. And I do believe that most of these structures have that mega, base down below, just like the pyramids. I think pyramids were generally radio transmitters, as above, so below. They were 8-sided crystals. A lot of them is what. So anyways, I just keep going. I really think the moon and the sun are connected via this entire system through that type of mechanism. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, the moon and the sun are an anode and cathode system. You just look at their influence. The moon is putrid. It breaks down. It follows the same electrical synthesis structures that you can find in electrochemistry.
Charge,
The moon-
discharge.
Correct. That's exactly what we're living in. We're living in an electrical system. We're living in a circuit, or you could think of us on a motherboard. That's why cities are laid out the way they are. They look like fungi. They look like leaves. They look like as above, so below, macro, micro. And star forts they could absolutely be desalination, because I've concluded when you study the oldest representation of these forts, they go back to China, the oldest stories you can find, 2,000 years or so. And they say that they were built to drain the water of the deluge.
Not Vauban style forts, older than the French Vauban.
It's way before the French, but there were whole dynasties where kings were made, kings because of their engineering capability, and that these systems are all interconnected, and that they're pumping stations. That's what I kind of used, electromagnetic pumping stations. Desalination would be important. I certainly think some of them could do that, because if you're pumping salt water off of inland areas, like how do we explain the Great Salt Lake, for instance?
Yeah.
When you actually look into scientific explanation for it, it doesn't really hold water. But yeah, pyramids are connected to this too. I have done a video called "Was the Giza Pyramid Noah's Ark?" The first British, not first, but one of the older ones in the 1800s, he was the Egyptologist. He represented all of Europe and Egypt. So he was a very learned guy, and he had, countless people behind him. He wrote a book saying that the Giza pyramid was Noah's Ark, and that the pyramids all around the world have this salt line that show that these pyramids all stuck above the flood. And the Creek Indians, the Cherokees, the Seminoles, a lot of them have a historical representation that these pyramidal structures were used not only to connect to an underground cistern system, but also to a kind of subterranean vault where they would survive in these floods. Not only when the Mississippi flooded, but in more historical events. And again, this kind of connects with the vapor canopy, the ice age that Longo and I have talked about, with this kind of Phoenician survival story that the Bach saga talks about so eloquently. But yeah, star forts are ancient, and they absolutely are crucial when it comes to water. I think each one of them, though, does serve a different purpose in some places, depending on altitude,
the size, the shape.
Yeah, but they are 100% current related.
Yeah.
And water pumping or diverting related. But yeah, I mean, you can follow, like, you look at the creation of the Netherlands, because that's a relatively young historically, and the formation of the country wouldn't exist without star forts. Like, you can follow the actual creation of, half of the actual landmass of the Netherlands from the 1600s on, and it's 100% star fort driven. The star forts were pumping the land, and then they were building these massive walls and these dikes and all these different things, and yeah.
So
I gotta step away for just a second. Okay, I'll be right back.
So just so people in the chat know what I mean by the star forts had water flowing through, I think moving water plays a massive role in everything, and that's why water and moats were always present around all these old structures. I was tripping on psilocybin before, and I could hear this buzzing, and I didn't know what the buzzing was, and it was driving me crazy because it was at the end of this magnificent trip. I was learning all kinds of cool stuff, and I was barefoot after a crazy thunderstorm, and I stepped into the flowing water that was coming down the hillside, and I could hear the freaking power running around the power lines, everywhere around me. I was a freaking radio transmitter when my feet were bare in the flowing water. But when I stood in stagnant water, it was not even close. It was like as soon as I would step into the flowing water. I think that plays a huge role in power and wireless power induction and connection and all that stuff. And then the next time I went to do it again during a storm at the same spot, same thing. I brought copper and zinc and I put them in my hands, and it amplified it even more right in my hand. It was just freaking wild.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's like Schauberger stuff as well, with the living waters and the flowing waters.
Yeah, I'm
incredible.
really into that. I love that stuff. And tripping on psilocybin while thinking, so I thought I was tripping at first, but then I would start doing these things sober afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually saw the cat. I could see my visual acuity was enhanced so much. It was like I had telescopic vision and like microscope level vision, but really it's just my capabilities were enhanced because I was fasted, yada yada. Long story short, we don't need to get in that, but I learned physics while on psilocybin, and the flowing water made me realize I was a radio transmitter. And that's when in the law, when I see the word transmitting utility as a human resource, when we get registered at the Department of Human Resources, if you read what you really are in the law and any courtroom decision and all this Saturnian, all these rooms, the administrative courts, they're banks, and this is all energy related. These banks, river banks, these banks it's all energy related. You are literally legally in the law a transmitting utility. And everything just hit me while I was on this trip. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is energy. Energy is money. Money is energy. And
transferring
it's all
currency.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah. And the movement, the flow of it is everything. Imagine storing money at your home or in like a vault or something is like literally having a dam. It's like a dam with water just sitting there. The dam stopped the currency and the flow. Think Niagara Falls. Think Tennessee Valley Authority. They took away the people's power from them, so they couldn't connect to the natural energy sources and the flows of water, especially from the old world. And I think these old world aqueducts and the plumbing system of the old world has been dried out. They stopped. They took all the water away because that would literally electrify all these structures. And I even think some of these structures are actually petrified. We're always like, oh, look, they made it out of this stone. Well, what do things turn into? What is, if all old world biology is geology, like what if these were more granite and silicon based and these are petrified structures? And we're like, oh, they were made of this stone. It's this concrete. And I'm like, well, these things could easily petrify overnight. And I've shared videos of rapid petrification and things like
lightning?
that.
Let's
lightning strikes?
Yeah. Let's talk about some strange geology while we're at it.
Ooh. Don't get me started on them daggum freaking kidney stone geodes again.
Video coming out soon, guys. Rockwall, Texas. Some of you might know I was there a couple months ago. But everything we're talking about makes me think of Rockwall. And you're going to see here, Rockwall, for those that don't know, it is a wall made out of stone that was discovered in Texas. It's actually a network of walls, of buried stone walls as deep as 40 feet below ground level. Whoa. These walls go down 40 feet.
Wow.
And they run for 4 miles. And as far as, last they checked, there was 11 known outcroppings where they broke the surface and you could see the wall. And in some spots, the wall had an archway. And this archway was downtown on display. And then they had windows through the wall, doorways through the wall. And go look up Rockwall, Texas. Rockwall, Texas is a city that's named for the Rockwall.
How do they explain that? How could they possibly explain that with the historical narrative?
They don't.
I mean, they're living on the proof that it's something else, something bigger. That's crazy.
Hey, just so you guys know, when I got booted out earlier, I was looking at the ship with the plasma coming out of the top, and I turned on my Tesla coil at the table here, and it literally blew the screen and blew my phone speaker, and I had to reset my phone, and it was like everything just exploded. 3 screens, and the cell phones never happened before. It was wild.
Whoa.
So what we're looking at right here is the rock wall. This is a portion that was reassembled. Boo-hoo, I know. Was reassembled away from where it was originally found. So this is a portion that they put back together exactly how they found it. In their words, exactly how they found it.
Mm-hmm.
They pieced back together this portion of the rock wall. Now there's other portions that you can go see that are not public. They're on private property. If you're lucky enough, you can go see them. But it's there. It's made of stone. And they actually swear, they insist that this is a natural formation. I'm not kidding.
What?
They say that that is a natural formation.
All right, hold on.
Bricks,
Now,
laid bricks.
not only is it natural, the mortar, the apparent mortar that's gluing all the stones together,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a mortar at all, guys. That's just some, moisture that got trapped in, and then it all got buried, and then it turned into quartz. Then it turned into iron. Then it turned into trace amounts of gold and all these minerals that are found
Yeah.
nowhere near Texas, as
Yeah.
in Rockwall. And the stones themselves are sandstone, they say, but the mortar, we're gonna look at the mortar here in a sec.
Oh shit.
The mortar will knock your socks off, guys. Okay,
They've
here's the
already been knocked
sandstone.
off.
It's a very fine grain to this stone.
Pink
Very
sock.
fine grain. Some people have theorized that they were cast, that all of these were cast because it's such a fine, uniform grain.
Okay.
But that's what most of the wall looks like, front on. Well, here's a timeline discovered in 1852 by Boydston, Wade, and Stevenson while they were building a well. In 1874, so only 20 years later, they concluded that it was natural. Igneous occurrences. So they're saying like molten rock, like magma or something. Well, then let's fast forward.
No.
This will all be in the video I have upcoming, and there's plenty of good stuff out there on YouTube about Rockwall. Like I said, I'm the Florida guy. Plenty of people have talked about Texas and Rockwall and done a really good job. Go check them out. Joshua Reeves is like the go-to #1 Rockwall guy, if I'm not mistaken. Joshua Reeves, I think his name is. But, Coast to Coast has covered this. I'm going to be bringing my own spin to it. It will be worth viewing, but there's plenty of people who have talked about it. I just want to skip over to this key date over here, 1925. In February, it's about 70 years after the fact of them sweeping it under the rug, and then another 100 years after this, but we'll read it. In February, archaeologist Count Byron de Prorock examines exposed sections of the walls and proposes that they were constructed by a prehistoric race of giants. Stuart
Hell yeah.
McGregor's article
Hell yeah.
describing this idea was published in the Dallas Morning News on February 22nd, 1925, and a couple other articles, a bunch of articles. Now, they would actually come out, and oh, look at this. Only 2 years with that reign as kind of the main narrative. Then, what do we have? 1927, 2 years later. Both L.W. Stevenson and J.W. Fuchs, J.W. Fuchs, of the Smithsonian Institute, pronounced the formation is a naturally formed structure.
Are you shitting me?
Cucked
Smithsonian.
right before your eyes. They're cucking our history. They're telling you, imagine this. There's an institution that disrespects you, thinks so little of you, that they know you're looking at that. They know you're looking at the same wall that they are. And they're still going to tell you, this is natural formation. Oh, it's just a natural sand dike. Oh, what's wrong, Goy? You never seen a sand dike before? What's wrong? You never seen a natural sand dike 40 feet below the ground with no rock anywhere near it? No rock for miles that direction. No rock for miles that direction. But we've got a perfectly brick lane wall running underneath the city, underneath the courthouse, underneath the post office, underneath all these, key points in the old
Bruh.
infrastructure. Guys, just go look up Rockwall if you don't know what it is. Well, these are just the things I'm listing off. Once you see the mortar, you'll flip. But this institution thinks so little of you that they know you're looking at the same thing they are, and still are going to serve you up the most unbelievable BS story, and they just know you'll gobble it up. They just know it'll be gobbled up. Can I have some more, sir?
Yeah.
Can I have some more Goislop, Mr. Smithsonian?
That is worse than Devil's Tower being hexagonal magma shooting up in the air and there being gaps in it and shit. Like
That's
this is worse than that explanation by far.
it's wild.
Now you
The-
said
the
giants;
audacity.
they would look like bricks, like our bricks. Say if you went and
Yeah.
looked at the long brick structures from the white bricks around Florida and some of these old buildings that are facaded with red brick or have red brick outside of them. The older structures have long white bricks. Those look just like those bricks, but like for a larger race. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
Here's the well that they were trying to dig, or reproduction of the well. But let's look at the mortar. For those who don't know, mortar is like the glue between bricks, right?
it's
The
right
mortar is what gives it away.
Mm.
Look at that. Mortar, when you go buy mortar from Home Depot, I don't know if there's little pieces of quartz or silica or, a little
Mortar.
calcium. There might be crystalline things in there, but you're not dealing with like macro crystals, like crystals that you'd buy at a metaphysical store. The mortar at Rockwall is obviously either quartz or a very comparable crystal. Like
Yeah.
it takes shape, it angles, it has faces to it. It's faceted like a crystal. It's a crystal. It's not. I don't need to convince anyone it's a crystal. I just don't know what type of crystal. I think it's quartz. I know it's some type of quartz, something very close, but that's quartz in the mortar between the bricks.
What
So when
is quartz?
What is it? It's calcite.
Well,
Right.
I mean, we could go to stellium 7 level. What is quartz or not? But I'm just saying, like, what really is all quartz? For example, is all quartz something that was once biological, or mixing in, the alchemical mixing of whatever? Dude, someone said mortar. Do you ever say mortar? Mortar. Mors.
Well, tar means
Mortar.
stone.
More
Tor-
stone.
Tar means to coagulate, to get harder over time, like
More
Tartarus.
stone. More
Mhm.
stone.
Mortar, yeah. Mortar.
Like blood.
Yeah,
Could it
well,
have been
hey,
petrified blood?
yes, death. Also, mort is death. Mort.
Mortgage.
Right.
Mortgage.
Well, you're onto something, Spencer, and we've talked about it in a couple different streams of mine. Well, if mortar is mortar, and you've got all these things, what's cement? Can you say that?
Seam.
Can you spell that one out slowly? It's anyone ever seen one of those solid cement socks that your mom finds under your?
Ooh, it's getting sticky. The pink socks are getting sticky out here.
That's the semen solidifies. As gross as this is, as we're all joking, it solidifies into a solid crystalline, like crystal, like
Yeah.
hard crystals. That's cement. Portland cement? Well, why does concrete come from Portland? Oh,
Jeez.
they're fucking gay as hell in Portland, and that's why cement comes from Portland.
Yeah.
Jeez, dude. There you go.
Urine has a lot of
and the
crystal in it.
Navy, and the Navy.
Whoa. There you
Yeah,
go.
urine is very crystalline as well. Ask
Whoa,
Andy Palmer
that's
about that.
disgusting, Jimmy. That's disgusting. Crossing the line, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, people are tipping for the cum talk.
Dude, I liked the policeman horoscope little segment. I'm going to send that to like 5 people. I'm gonna
Let's-
snip that.
Yeah,
let's look
that's got
look at some more of this mortar.
Yeah, please.
Right.
This
Some
is
more.
sex. This is sexy.
You can see it's clearly been smeared on to the bricks, the stones. It's been smeared on, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's clearly a mortar. Like they've put this wall back together in a secondary location in front of their little museum. But that's the original wall, and you can show. I'll bring up some older pictures of the wall. These are just pictures I took. These are all pictures that I took at the rock wall in video. I'll bring up some older pictures in a sec. You can see. But why would you need to mortar things together? Why does nature need to mortar things together? Is what I should say.
Mhm.
I mean, nature does that, but not in wall formation. It does it vertically, not horizontally laid like that. So when you see like cellular walls, when you see hexagonal structures laid, there's literally connective tissue. So mortar is similar to a connective tissue in between layering in that sense, but I think it's obnoxious that they would say that when it's clearly a wall.
But they have a big museum. They have to be right.
Have you guys
Yeah.
ever watched the show
We have to
Bones?
believe them. No.
I've downloaded a couple shows called Bones.
It was she's a forensic anthropologist, and the whole show is they're based in the Smithsonian. The
Mhm.
endless, there's so many seasons, and it's all about the Smithsonian and basically glorifying the Smithsonian and how they're noble and all that. And it makes you love it. But that's all shows and movies are generally there's usually a tactic like that, and that's what made me say, oh, screw this.
Yeah, who paid the piper?
Yeah.
Another thing about the mortar here, it's not just quartz. There's also iron, like smelted iron.
Okay.
Like sheets of iron, or
Don't
like
we have
a thin layer, kind of painted on, or something like that.
the first person that ever told me that there was blood in our cement, and then I looked at the CMEX in Florida, a website literally says there's blood in the cement, was Ben. He sent it to me in a message like 2 years ago, and he's like, dude, there's blood in the cement. So when you say iron and mortar, it's like, oh, boom, that reminds me of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got an article somewhere. It's on my Instagram. Jimmy, any chance you could find way back on my Instagram? There's a screenshot of the patent for mixing blood into concrete and cement.
Yeah,
What type of blood are they mixing in there?
Animal, hopefully. Human, probably.
people that built it? Probably.
What do they say? That was one of the things that
It doesn't say on the website.
one of the most interesting things for me with the whole old world reset theory was that a lot of these buildings were like Empire State Building,
Yep.
How many people died? Only a couple. But then you've got like the Hoover Dam. And what is it? A shit ton die.
Yeah, it was a sacrificial
exactly.
location.
Like, did these people
Totally.
die? Oh, the morning news, 28 men dead constructing the Hoover Dam. Well, did they die constructing it, or did they die so that it could be constructed? Were they drained of their blood, and the blood helped construct the building, and that's how they died?
Whoa.
You know what I mean?
Well, isn't there the sacrificial? I don't know if you've covered it. I've seen it many times. The sacrificial statue there.
I think they've got something like that, right? Like the Ark of the Covenant type deal.
It's the big winged,
at
the
Hoover
big
Dam.
winged
The
whatever.
cherubs, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really just wild. Does not fit the scene unless you knew the story of why it's there. Kind of statue
At the Smithsonian?
at the Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
Hoover Dam, right. Okay.
It's wild.
Yeah, why would they?
Google image it, Jimmy. You'll love it.
Okay. Got a lot to search here.
But anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Longo.
You complaining, Jimmy? You can just You can just head on. You can just hop out.
No,
Just kidding.
it's all interesting.
AJ.
You can hop off whenever you want, Jimmy. All jokes aside.
All jokes. I'm rescreening a pool cage in Florida tomorrow. We start at 9, boys.
Amen.
Yeah, gotta keep them bugs out.
Here's the rock wall.
Yeah. Okay,
Let's go.
that's crazy. Yeah, it's so godlike and ancient.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that when I went there.
You have got. I mean,
Wow.
when
Look
you
at
dig
this.
in, when you dig into that story and what they're representing, it was a legitimate sacrificial system that went down in the construction of that.
How
It
many
looks so
toes?
Egyptian.
How many toes did that thing have? Can
6.
you see that?
Oh,
6.
Yep.
No way.
How many?
No way.
6 giants. There we go.
Does that actually have
That
7
looks like
Yes.
toes?
more.
One,
That looks like
2,
more.
3,
Are those
4,
2
5,
feet?
6.
Are those
No,
2
that's
feet?
1 foot.
That's
Why
1
did it
foot?
zoom in on the feet like
Are you
that?
sure that's not 2 feet held together?
Well,
wait.
7 would still be
yeah.
a funky number.
Let's see if we can see
Oh, yeah,
the
he's-
feet of the giant.
Very feminine, like he's got his knees together.
But it still might be more than. It still looks like more than 5, even if it is
Feminine.
2 feet.
Knees are
Here we
slammed.
go. Look at
No
this.
nut.
It's like he's getting his pedicure.
Oh shit! Oh shit! You're right. Kneel before.
Yeah.
Oh
1, 2,
man,
3,
kiss the feet,
4,
guys. Kiss the feet.
5.
Didn't we
Oh.
kiss feet recently?
I mean,
Isn't everybody kissing feet now?
no, what?
Dude, that's totally 6. That's 6 toes.
Yeah, I mean, if that
That's
counts.
6 toes.
1,
count.
2,
I can count.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's a clear
That's-
delineation here.
Clearly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't see 6. 1.
You don't.
Well,
Okay. Count from the big toes
look at
out.
this.
No, here. I'm gonna show you.
They look like 2 buck teeth, right?
Let's look. Look at how fat. Let's look at the front, the middle 2. We can determine for sure where the 2 large big toes are
Toe
Yes.
count.
in the center.
Yes.
Working outward from the toe, from the big toes. Let's count here. From the left big toe, 1. Fuck.
2
1,
fuck.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And what is that? Do you
That's
just have an
something
extra mass on the outside of your toe? No, that's clearly looks like
Well,
another toe to me.
There is.
Look
It
at-
is kind of scraped off over to the left again, isn't it? It almost looks like it's a short pinky toe like ours.
Yes.
I found a bird's eye view, gentlemen.
Go,
Cut back
Jimmy.
over to my screen.
Okay,
Check
come
this
on.
out.
Damn.
Boom.
Oh
That's
shit.
clearly
Oh,
number 6
shit.
right here.
That's
Oh,
totally a 6 toe.
Oh shit.
Totally.
You boys just opened up an 80,
Huge.
88
Damn.
gallon, 55 gallon drum of whoop ass right there.
Okay. I've got dibs
Holy
on the first
moly.
video about this.
That's
Yeah.
Okay.
dude. You
You're
guys
going
just
to
making-
Hoover.
Oh, and dude, Ben showed the entire missing story on the building that I was showing. Just because it was a bell tower. I wasn't even showing it because it was
I mean,
weird, and he pointed that out.
you should probably do the whole what's behind it too. Isn't there stuff at the bottom behind the dam? Wasn't there like a whole city civilization being covered up via that system?
Oh yeah, the dam flooded an entire city, and Ben has read articles about that. And it was in the 30s, pretty late, and archaeologists and historians were descending on it and rushing as quickly as they can, working round the clock to study and salvage whatever they could, because they knew that in a matter of days, once the Hoover Dam was finished, completed,
Wow.
it was all destroyed.
Yeah. I think we're kind of slacking on this monument, guys. And
Whoa.
has anybody? I forget. I used to
Guys.
know what it meant.
Guys, people, these aren't just toes. You guys know this?
Oh shit!
These aren't just toes. People rub them for good luck.
I told you we were
You
feet
go up.
worshipping.
You go up. You go up to the toes and rub them for good luck,
They have
Fucking
a
told
charge.
you, Jimmy. Jimmy, I fucking told you.
like a
It's
god,
all.
dude.
It's charge.
They're
Shrine.
touching the feet.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a toe shrine.
Rubbing the feet for luck.
They just started doing that in 2020. Remember, you would see like Biden and what's her name on her, kissing people's feet and
Oh,
shit. Or
yeah.
what was going on? I don't remember. There was some
The
sort of
taking a knee. It's the image that if you didn't know better, you'd assume was AI generated. Of Pelosi down with the scarf.
Oh, I thought it was like the Black Lives Matter. It's like we were like kissing the feet of black people doing the Black Lives Matter thing, and we were like,
too.
oh, it was like
like
worshiping
washing
their feet.
washing the feet.
That's what I saw on the steps. It was like on the
Yeah.
steps of the White House or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was on some literally like famous building steps, some political buildings steps.
Yeah.
Yo.
It's eternal guilt.
So Longo, what is this goddess a representation of? What would be the name? I can't remember.
So it was a masculine
Dude.
god.
I have not looked at it much. I'm still looking at the toes.
It's called the Hoover
Trying to
Dam
zoom in.
Angel.
I will say there was a very pretty girl in my statistics class. Ben's back. He's about to tell us every question we had. She had 6 toes on both feet.
Whoa.
College stat.
How did they taste?
I don't know. I cheated. I did cheat off of her though.
You cheated.
Yes.
She was an
Yeah.
angel.
Off her.
And dude, back then, if I wasn't cheating, I was not trying.
Look at this. It's a good luck ceremony. People go up and rub the feet for good luck. Look this
The
up,
6
guys.
toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah.
nuts. Hoover.
They would-
I'm behooved right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ben, did you catch any of this?
Before they built this dam, there were a bunch of archaeologists excavating cities, buried cities, downstream that were going to be buried by the dam.
Right.
In fact, my most popular video on my channel to this day is my Hoover Dam buried a lost civilization video.
That's where I learned it.
And,
Is that Athena, Ben?
I'm not exactly sure who they're trying to represent. I have to agree that it was more of a masculine. But they have a big star map with Alcyone being a focus, and some of the phrases that are encompassed here are very interesting. But there was always in medieval times, part of building a large structure was that you had to sacrifice people in the construction of it. And this goes back to the blood of the victims being a coagulant, because for good cement, you need a good coagulant. And there's no better coagulant than blood. The iron as well helps create a really potent concrete. So that the London Bridge is falling down nursery rhyme is actually based on sacrificing children in the construction of a bridge, but many things. Anyways, the story circulating the Hoover Dam construction all often was tied up with how many people were actually buried in the concrete. People would fall in to the concrete as they were pouring it, and they'd be entombed. If you Google it, I can't remember. I think 60 people died building this thing. Something around there, maybe 40 to 60.
Jeez.
But there's a lot of symbolism in Hoover Dam. It was originally called Boulder Dam. And
96 men.
Yeah, 96, of course, the mirrored numbers,
Of course.
I doubt 96 men really died,
When was it constructed, the statue? Longo, what date was the statue?
I'll pull that up in a sec, but how jaw-dropping is that 96 died in just them pouring concrete, as far as I'm concerned. Pouring concrete in a valley
What if it's the people?
Whereas 5 died from that. Whereas 96 died in the Hoover Dam, doing not much. Whereas only 5 died in the entire Empire State Building. You've seen all those pictures there. They're eating lunch with a beam between their legs. Their legs dangling off. You know, one bad move, which even the most skilled person is still prone to, is a bad step, and you're dead. You're gone. You know, only 5 people died in the entire Empire State Building, but 96 died in the Hoover Dam. How is it? It's not comparable at all.
Yeah.
But Spencer, you were saying you wanted to know the date?
Yeah, when was the statue erected? The date,
the statue.
Yeah, the statue, because I have a feeling there's going to be some telling numerology there.
The Brooklyn Bridge claimed 27, which is a special number as well.
How about Mount Rushmore? You got someone in the chat said a lot of lives in Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Brooklyn Bridge.
Did you guys already talk about the star map? This Hoover Dam star map?
No, but Ben, when you were gone, did you hear us? Did you hear any of the 6th toe stuff?
No.
Dude.
Yeah. Tell him, Longo. Tell him.
Dude. So we're talking about the Hoover Dam, and we're fucking looking at. Let me pull it up again. So we're looking at the images. We're looking at this statue that's in front of the Hoover Dam, right? Or there's 2. I think there's matching statues, or maybe one in the middle. I forget. But you've got these 2 golden or bronze, whatever they are, cherubs, angels, God, and we're looking at it. I don't know what we were talking about, but then one of us looks at their feet. Who said it? Who pointed it out first?
I think it was you, Longo.
The number of toes.
I think it was you.
Yeah, it's probably you. We thought it was 2 feet for a second, and 1 foot. Yeah.
Well, we're looking at his feet, and then one of us noticed or started counting the number of toes. And clearly, this thing has 6 toes on at least 1 foot. It might have 6 on both feet, but let's just count. We didn't know for sure, but let's look at the top-down view. Right here.
The first or second, yeah.
Let's just look. Looking from the center outward.
No, we already done it. It's
well, I just want to show Ben.
Yeah, it's sealed.
Counting from the middle toes here. Big toe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what's this? 6th.
The little pinky.
Clearly, and this is not just like a anybody.
Accident.
Yeah, the whole spiel here, the whole point, what people do to these statues, is they walk up to them, and they rub the feet, and they rub the toes for good luck, like an ancient god, like a messiah. Like, please, Messiah, can I pray at your feet?
Can I be sacrificed here?
Yeah. How many people died going into this thing? And they get good luck from the feet. And we all know about the giants who used to roam the Americas, if not the whole continent. Sorry, all the continents. 6 toes and 6 fingers. Much of the time, you'll find these anomalous skeletons have 6 fingers, 6 toes. Yeah. And it's a giant.
Do you want me to read a really amazing article from not far downriver from this place?
Of course. Let's get into it.
Okay. How can I make it perfect so you can see it better?
Perfect.
A handful of dust. This is an article printed in Wyoming, 1891. It is all that remains of a prehistoric king. A valuable archaeological find in Arizona, evidently the tomb and remains of a monarch of an unknown age. Among the most valuable discoveries ever made on the American continent from an archaeological standpoint is the tomb of a prehistoric race recently unearthed at the village of Crittenden, Arizona. Now, Longo, this is the area I was telling you about. This is Pinal County, Arizona, in Florence. And the overlays here with Italy get even more crazy. The workmen had penetrated at some 8 feet below the surface of the ground what they took to be stone of a soft, friable nature, but which was evidently masonry of very superior workmanship when they reached the tomb itself. This was composed of large square blocks of stone, which was identified as red or rose granite, and cemented together with such skill as to at first cause the whole, measuring 12 by 15 feet, to appear as a solid mass. The opening of this, while very difficult, as the use of powder was prohibited by Mr. Hendrickson, who, as a learned archaeologist, was placed in charge of the exhumation by the authorities, was accomplished by night, when the interest and curiosity of the party was so great that the work was continued by lamplight till dawn. The tomb, when opened, was found to contain a gigantic image of a man lying at full length and made of clay mixed with a sort of preparation which gives it a bright blue color and a slight elasticity, the whole appearing to have been subjected to great heat. The image represented the naked figure. It gets better and it correlates with what we were just talking about, I promise. Represents the naked figure except for a very tight girdle about the waist, a pair of close-fitting sandals, and a crown on the head shaped very much like a bishop's mitre, but topped with the head of a hawk or an eagle. The features are roughly molded out of an imperious cast, and of a middle-aged man with a prominent nose, a very wide mouth, but with cheekbones so low as to preclude all idea that the original could have been an Indian. The hands, which are as small as a woman's, and bear on the back of the head of the bird, as on the crown, are crossed on the breast and hold an image about 3 inches long of a squatting figure, probably that of a god. Now here's where it ties in. The feet are crossed. The right presenting the peculiarity of possessing a 6th toe.
Whoa.
What?
Which the sandal is cut to bring into prominence as if the owner had prided himself on it.
Wow.
The hair of the image is dressed in thick curls on both sides of the head, reaching to the shoulders, and brought down to the brow of the forehead. Careful examinations of this clay figure revealed that it was merely the elaborate coffin of the real body and could be opened from the back. This was done with all possible care so as to not disturb the remains within, but a few handfuls of dust, dark brown and almost impalpable powder, was all that survived. The crown is of thick red gold, carved with minute but well executed drawings representing battle scenes, triumphal marches, and other pictures, the meaning of which is somewhat misty. But in all, the principal figure is that of a man with 6 toes on his right foot. The workmanship of the whole crown is very fine, and the bird's head on top is a masterpiece worthy of Cellini. It holds in its mouth a magnificent chalchutis or green diamond, valued by the Aztecs, which shows some attempts at lapidification. The girdle found is composed of plates of gold arranged like scales and very thin, so as to give with every movement of the wearer's body. On each of these plates, which is shaped a half ellipse, is engraved a figure or hieroglyphics conveying, however, no hint of their meaning in their form. The image of what is presumably a god is made of clay combined with the preparation spoken of before, and also burnt till thoroughly hardened. It represents a male being seated on a pedestal in a squatting posture,
Dude.
its eyes squinting, grinning in hideous mirth. Sorry. But yeah, so that's only down. That's not far from here.
That's it.
A spitting image.
Even the
of
blue.
What you just described. Let's just look at every part you mentioned. Prominent nose.
Yep, low cheekbones.
Prominent nose. A bird on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy's got wings on. I mean, one foot having an extra toe. Now, it looked like only one of his feet, the right foot, had the sixth toe on this statue at the Hoover Dam. The left foot might have had a sixth toe, but it wasn't as obvious as the right foot.
Correct.
And what else? This is a good luck thing.
The blue.
And
the blue, Longo.
The blue, but also, big takeaway, sitting in a sitting position as if he were squatting. So not reclined, but almost like a workout stance, sitting.
Or taking a shit.
That's precisely what Ben just read.
Wow.
Sitting.
On a black, magnetic looking, lodestone looking black cube.
Yeah, black granite.
Black granite, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Like on a throne, on a pedestal. And the image, the close-up of the feet does prove that
kind of small hands too.
Small hands, yeah. If you took those hands and put them on the guy's head, it looks like they'd fit in his cheek. Whereas, my hand is my whole head.
Yeah.
My hand's my whole head. That guy's hand looks like a small hand.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
Small fingers compared to the palm. Very small.
Like Trump.
Trump, yeah, he's got the whopper hands.
It's in mythology, right? There's something about the small-handed, large, tall man.
Well,
it's like
the Seminoles had small feet and small hands for how large they were. That's one of the things that they always noted on the Seminoles of Florida. Small hands and feet, despite being 6'4".
Are there any good images of the hands? Do they have 5 fingers?
Yeah, I see one.
Let's see if we can get to the right hand. I'll see what I can find.
4 fingers and a thumb. Dude, that Tesla coil jacked up my computer screen earlier when I turned it on. There's all these sparkles on it.
You gotta be careful with a high output like that.
Dude, shot my speaker on my cell phone, screwed this screen for good, I'm sure.
It's not voltage, it's amps,
Pink, wireless. There's all these little red speckles all over my computer screen. It looks like glitter on my computer screen since I did that.
I'm not having any luck finding the hands.
I'm looking at one right now.
Not zoomed in. There's a side profile, but it's not very zoomed.
See if you can present, Spencer.
Well, you guys could find the same one, I'm sure.
Here,
yeah,
I think...
and Arizona, my Arizona episode, I talk a lot about all of the most ancient Masonic relics in the world all come from that area. In fact, the Freemasons themselves, that's why Phoenix is named Phoenix. They literally said they were rebuilding the ashes of a forgotten race from a metropolis, that Phoenix was being born again.
Yeah.
And all of the major cities, Flagstaff, Tucson, Phoenix, all of them, literally in the 1800s, they were flat out in newspapers saying that this city is built on the foundations of a previous race. And that the canal systems in Arizona are so advanced that when they got there in the early 1800s, there was over 400 miles of canals that are so well built they're still used today, and they're coated with terracotta. And they said that the terracotta, that the formation and the way that these canals were terracotted was more advanced than anything that existed in China.
Hey,
Wow.
wonderfully put. Ben, can I show us something here
Please.
that ties it all together? And it just shocked me. Like, this is a stream where there's been a lot of zingers. This one, it just keeps going. Okay, you
Mhm.
ready? You ready to see the exact confirmation of like what we've been speculating
Please.
about the sacrifice and the construction and ancient deities. They died to make the desert bloom.
Yeah.
They
Oh.
died to make the desert bloom.
What?
They didn't die to make the country better. They didn't die to build, the greatest bridge, greatest dam ever. They died to make the desert bloom. When does the desert bloom? Blood ripens the soil. That's what has always been said in all these different contexts. Regardless, good or bad, blood ripens the soil. If you take an animal, if an iguana dies in Florida, a smart homeowner takes the corpse and buries it next to a tree, or buries it under a tree, or plants a tree where the corpse died. Even when the corpse is gone, all those nutrients have seeped into the ground, and that footprint of a nutrient, fertilizer, whatever, will be there for decades. Decades. So, blah, blah, blah. That's just like the actual fertility, but in a literal sense. They died to make the desert bloom. They brought their blood, gave life to this project. Their blood made this possible. Come on. He's up to his waist in blood, it looks like. Or sand dunes. And
Is that a face?
The harvest.
What is that?
Looks
Here.
like a little city or something.
After you're done, show my screen and I'll share the newspaper
That's water.
clipping that I used
like a
for
face.
my Boulder Dam article. The symbolism, you'll love the symbolism in the article.
I'll just read this real quick before we switch over, Ben.
Yeah, of course.
The United States of America will continue to remember that many who toiled here found their final rest while engaged in the building of this dam. It says the same thing on the other side.
They're really emphasizing this. Like, they want people to know that happened. It's not like, we're going to keep it hush hush that a crap ton of people died because of mistakes and faulty, safety mechanism. They're almost glorifying it.
The United States of America will continue to remember the services of all who labored to clothe with substance the plans of those who first visioned the building of this dam. God damn it.
Yeah, look, what's in the clouds there? Is that like lightning or something above the guy's head?
It looks like a
lightning
thunderbolt trident style thunderbolt thing in the center.
And
You've
then the
got
wheat
stalks of grain and wheat. This is clearly, and it's the storm. It is, you're right, Ben. It's thunderbolts and the storm god being represented in the center. Then you've got your harvest god being represented on the outside with the ears of grain there. And clearly showing like this is a sacrifice. This is for the gods. These are the movements of the gods up top there and the movements of man down at the bottom here. And it couldn't be more blatant. I'm usually one of these people kind of like debunking like the over the top symbolism, saying, hey, don't read into it so much.
No, this is loaded. This is loaded and it's spot on.
This is a double quarter pounder of truth right here. Gravy overload.
And remember what you were just saying when you hop over to my screen about the harvest.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
this is the article. Look at who you have over here on the right. You got the Saturnian symbolism of the skeleton with his legs in the water and the buried. I'll zoom in here. Hold on.
Nice.
Legs in the water.
Whence did the inhabitants of the lost city come, and where and when did they go? The answer is lost in the midst of the past. Only the skeletons of their dead and the crumbling walls of their dwellings remain.
Dude.
Wow.
So yeah, this article talks about how they're in a last traces of ancient race are doomed by the rising waters, which will inundate the entire valley.
Does that worker have a cape on? That skeleton?
Worker have a cape on?
The skeleton, sorry, with the scythe?
No,
skeleton?
I don't think so. I don't know. He could.
It looks
Yeah.
like
Looks like he kind of does, huh? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, he does have a cape. He does have a cape.
Oh yeah, he does.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
wow.
Mhm.
What kind of laborer wears a cape, or what race or what entities wore those, or is it not a laborer?
I don't know. I think it's just describing the scythe,
Pattern.
the harvest.
Well, Grim Reaper style.
Yeah, the reaper. They kind of go into a bit of what they were digging up before this all got buried under, hundreds of feet of water. But it's quite an interesting article. To give you an idea of what, I have one more 6 finger, 6 toe article in this same kind of neck of the woods. Sonora, Mexico, so not far away. The Chihuahua, Mexico Enterprise reports the discovery of some remarkable ancient ruins on a hill or mountain 4 leagues south of Magdalena in Sonora. The hill is about 700 feet high, and halfway up there is a layer of gypsum, which is as white as snow and may be cut into any conceivable shape, yet sufficiently hard to retain its shape after being cut. In this layer of stone are cut hundreds upon hundreds of rooms from 6 by 10 to 16 by 18 feet square. So even and true are the walls, floor, and ceiling, so plumb and level as to defy variation. There are no windows in the rooms, and but one entrance, which is always from the top. The rooms are but 8 feet high from floor to ceiling. The stone is so white that it seems almost transparent, and the rooms are not at all dark. On the walls of these rooms are numerous hieroglyphics and representations of human beings cut in stone in different places. But, strange to say, all the hands have five fingers and a thumb. 5 fingers and a thumb, 6 fingers. And the feet have 6 toes. Charcoal is found on the floor of many of the rooms. Implements of every description are to be found. The houses or rooms are one above the other, 2 or 3 or 4 stories high, but between each story is a jog or recess the full width of the room below, so that the appearance of large steps leading up the mountain.
Goddamn.
But yeah, this whole area, there was always a story. I can't remember the tribe specifically, but a tribe in the Nevada region talked about giants that lived underground that had 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Well, you got
And giant steps.
Lovelock Cave was nearby there.
Yeah, I've got a lot
too,
of
right?
I've got a lot on Lovelock. I can't remember if it was
So let's put a pin on it. We'll get back to it. We'll do another episode here. I'm gonna have to hop off here.
I'm dying, bro.
Thank you guys, everyone out there. You already know, but I'll introduce them again. Ben, the archivist, waking up with analog, however you know him. He's on YouTube. He's on Twitter. Go check him out. Give him a subscribe, of course. Ben, hopefully gonna have him on the channel soon again for another chat, maybe a one-on-one. And Spencer from Florida, you guys know, out in Central Florida. More in the works with him. We're gonna be talking about this fruit business, things like that. Getting some merch coming your way. Don't want to spoil too many surprises, but believe it at that. So go give Spencer a follow, whatever. Spencer from Florida, YouTube. He's on TikTok, Instagram. And Jimmy right here, my wonderful manager, assistant, producer, the man that I go to with my problems. He's helping me out. He's going to help us get a lot more content coming out a lot quicker, a lot more polished, so to speak. And yeah. So if you want to see more of him, come here. Go to my channel. But yeah, thanks everyone. 500 of you guys, 520, still 2 o'clock in the morning.
Damn.
I am. 150 or 150, 151 a.m. That's a lot of people. We appreciate you guys staying up at night and getting the gravy at all hours of the day. And thank you guys. Appreciate it. Sorry I was late. Just kidding.
It worked out.
Yeah, cracker.
Glad you guys had time to
Thanks, guys. Ben. It was good to be on live with you, man. I've been following you since the beginning. Appreciate everything you do, brother. It's awesome. And you ride motorcycles.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you, sir. You too, Jimmy.
You too, Jimmy.
Yeah, it was great, guys. Have a good night.
I wish I had your voice. I wish I had your voice, Jimmy.
One love, guys. It's all a big, slightly stupid concert. Infinite love. One love. Ooh, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
You guys
sleep well.
Who's ever been to a slightly stupid concert gets that joke. But thank you guys. Go check them out. Gonna have a good night. See you guys soon. Adios.
Good night, guys.
Good night.